Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back and Merry Christmas. I hope you're excited as I am. The day is just days away. We've got a great stream planned as we are letting the holidays percolate around us. We've got John Brennan, the former CIA director, one of the guys who was in that meeting with Obama and Brennan and Comey and the rest of them trying to set up the president. Well, his attorneys sent a letter like this, looks just like this, from Mayor Brown. That's the name of the law firm, not a mayor called Mayor Brown. But they sent a letter in to the chief judge of the Southern District of Florida. You can see Chief Judge Cecilia Eltonga. And they're asking this judge to protect John Brennan. They're saying, hey, we're very nervous that his case right now, there's a grand jury apparently formulated down there, and they are in the middle of investigating a grand conspiracy. And they say John Brennan, the ex-CIA director, doesn't want this case to go over towards Judge Eileen Cannon from the Trump classified documents case, who ultimately dismissed that case and said that Jack Smith is not a real boy. So we'll go through this. We'll see what he's so freaked out about, but 17 pages of his lawyers basically begging the chief judge to help them out as this grand jury proceeding and investigation goes underway. So we'll talk about that. We've also got a little refresher here because our friend Svetlana Lakova, she posted this some time ago. Actually, it was last week. We listened to a little bit of it, but remember Rob Reiner apparently is now dead, murdered by his son. But he was part, in our opinion, of intelligence. And he was sat down with intelligence, including this guy right here, John Brennan. He, of course, was having this little patty cake game with Rob Reiner, all of them creating propaganda for consumption of their stupid audience. But we'll go through the latest. We'll see what the New York Times says about this and what the latest is with Brennan. But he gives us a bunch of information about what the grand jury is doing and what he has received in terms of subpoenas and demands and all of this. So there is something brewing down there in Florida. We're excited about that. Then we got a Charlie Kirk update today. Very interesting filing that came down. You can see it's right here. It came from Kathy, Nestor, Novak, all the people representing Tyler Robinson. And of course, this is the Charlie Kirk assassin, alleged. And he submitted a motion to disqualify the entire Utah County Attorney's Office. So the entire county needs to go. And they want somebody else in their place. And they're saying there's a major conflict of interest with the prosecutors who are actually bringing this case. We'll go through the latest. We'll see what you say about it and see what their claim is and whether it really carries any weight. Of course, a lot of people impacted by watching Charlie Kirk get murdered on national TV. And now we'll see what their claims are. We've got the latest on this. This doc just dropped earlier this week. And so we'll brief what is inside. Then we'll hear from Anna Paulina Luna, who is over there at AmFest, and see what she has to say about the aftermath of Kirk's death. Then lastly, we'll turn our attention to Washington, D.C., because they're getting sued now. The police department there in D.C. now, of course, being challenged by Harmeet Dillon, who came out and posted this, almost looking like she's a Bond villain or something in one of those chairs, like rolling around. She's like, guess what, Metro Police? We're coming for you. Like, no, Harmeet, no. She's coming out and saying, your gun laws in D.C. are unconstitutional. And this, I think, is good because kind of as goes D.C., so goes the rest of the country. So if they can win on this one, then this will be a nice victory. Everywhere else in D.C., apparently, you can't bring AR-15s because those boom sticks make it a little scare for some of the people there. So they don't want them there. And now they're saying that's too damn bad. This is America. We can have our ARs if we want them. So we have a great stream planned ahead. We're very excited that you're here and with us. Thanks for joining us on the early show. We are going to have a members only after party as well. So if you're around, if you're a membo, want to hang out after the show's over, we're going to debrief, see what else you have to say about all this, take some extra comments, and see what else is percolating on the day. But we got a great stream planned ahead. Merry Christmas, my friends. Very glad that you're here. Hopefully your holiday and your festivities are all coming together beautifully. I know many of us are waiting patiently for the delivery gods to bring that final thing to our doorstep, hopefully by the time the show's over. And, of course, we're looking forward to celebrating. And so we'll hang out with membos in the after party. Thanks for becoming a membo and subscribing and all the things and supporting our work here. And Merry Christmas. All right, now let's get to it because we've got a nervous John Brennan. Former CIA director John Brennan, very nervous now. His lawyers sending letters over to the chief judge down in the Southern District of Florida, and they're asking this chief judge to give John Brennan a little extra special privilege, a little benefit of not giving the case to judges that he doesn't like. And so his lawyers are freaking out in this letter. They sent it over. They're saying, hey, we got all these problems. Can you please help us out? It's very unusual, obviously, but we know who this guy is, John Brennan, right here. You've heard of him before when he was colluding with Barack Obama. John Brennan, his other friend. We got James Comey. The rest of them were all trying to reinvigorate the Russia collusion hoax after Trump obliterated Hillary Clinton during the campaign and did it, orchestrated it, and then ransacked the administration with this cudgel, moving against their political opponents for years. So we'll go through this. We'll remind ourselves what John Brennan was saying, but the letter got leaked from Brennan's lawyers over to the New York Times, and they published it, and they're even saying, wow, this is a little bit weird. They write, ex-CIA chief is now asking another judge to give him a better judge. This is how these people work. They will rant and rave in this letter about bad judges and how forum shopping is illegal. And then they go to Judge Zenas. Then they go to Judge Boasberg. Then they go to William Alsup. Then they go to Amir Ali. Then they go to Tanya Chutkan. And they shop their cases to their most favored judges. And they do not want that to happen in reverse. So they're freaking out here, sending this letter. The New York Times got their hands on it. They say, John O. Brennan, loser, former CIA director, sought on Monday to stop the DOJ from steering this case, which is a sprawling investigation, into them. They sent the letter to the chief judge, Cecilia Altanaga, of the federal court in the Southern District of Florida, which is where the classified documents case was. They say it would be highly unusual for a chief judge to block a colleague, right? The main judge says, sorry, Judge Eileen Cannon, you can't have this case because John Brennan doesn't like you. It would be very strange for one judge, the chief judge, to block another judge, but a lawyer for Brennan is so nervous, they sent a 16-page letter. They're saying, please don't let Cannon touch this case. We're going to go to prison. Please. Saying Judge Cannon's bad because she already said Jack Smith is not a real boy because he's not. Was never lawfully appointed. Now, citing a pattern of Cannon's rulings, they say, please, Judge, help us. We don't want to have her rule over this case. There's Judge Cannon, gorgeous and beautiful as can be. The investigation, which is led right now in Florida, and we're going to learn a lot more about it because Brennan's lawyers are going to explain what they're receiving from the DOJ and the prosecutors that have them so freaked out, but has already involved subpoenas, baby. Now, but that may just be the start. Trump's allies have zealously promoted a grand conspiracy investigation. They're not promoting anything. They're investigating it. They are investigating the people who promoted the grand conspiracy, which was Russia collusion, which was fake. Says here, an inspector general and special counsel have already scrutinized this, but they were fake. They were Robert Mueller, who was about as mentally competent as Joe Biden was. And they had guys like Andrew Weissman, who's now over on MS Now all the time, lisping his way through legal analysis. But in his second term, Trump is now investigating these criminals. And let's see what John Brennan is so nervous about. So his lawyers sent this one in. December 22nd, Merry Christmas. Of course, they're freaked out. It's delicious for us to see. We see that they sent this one in to the chief judge. Please help us, Judge. They say, all right, Judge, we're former CIA director lawyers here. And we write this letter because you're the chief judge and we really need your help. Saying John is the former director of the CIA. He's really important. And we, oh, it's so good, have been formally advised by prosecutors, by Trump, and the Office of the U.S. Attorneys for the Southern District of Florida that Director John Brennan is a target of grand jury investigation called NS 1840020. That's in Miami, baby. And what are they doing? Well, they're examining the circumstances surrounding the production of the 2017 ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment about Russian efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, which was a scam, okay? The 2017 ICA came out January 2017. Trump had already won in November 2016, and in December 9th, I think it was, Obama came out and said, we're in big trouble. We need you guys to come in here and reinvigorate the Russia collusion hoax. They already had a presidential daily brief that was going to go over to Obama's desk. And then the intelligence communities were like, actually, no, we don't, no, because that says the Russians didn't do anything. Then they pulled that brief, like literally pulled it off his desk, made sure he didn't get it, then put another one in. Then Obama met with the rest of them. They all came into his Oval Office. Then they went out. And by January 2017, lo and behold, boom, an entire new ICA. And John Brennan sent emails. Actually, his staff did, his assistant, because he's such a coward, didn't even want to send the email himself. They sent an email saying, per the president's request, Obama said, go find Russia collusion. And they were trying to coup the country. They were trying to steal the election and prevent Trump from actually being installed. Now, of course, they couldn't get enough momentum there. So instead, they had to just impeach him and then subpoena and spy on everybody in his orbit. So that was the rigging. Okay, that was completely rigged. They knew what they did. They were doing it for a reason. Now, as explained below, these are Brennan's lawyers, but this is just gorgeous. Great to see. John Brennan, they're freaked. There's an open investigation. It's confirmed. Now, they leaked this letter over to the New York Times. Obviously, the New York Times then published it, and they're like, well, look, because they want us all to see. This is also propaganda against Judge Eileen Cannon. They're trying to persuade the case to say, look, it got assigned to a biased judge. But they write, as explained below, it has become clear that irregular activity is taking place in this grand jury, which is affecting our clients' rights. One example of this is that the investigation is being leaked to the media. All right, well, there's a lot of reasons it can leak. Doesn't mean the investigation is harming your client. Now, another example, think about all the leaks against Trump. Think about all the leaks that James Comey was facilitating through Daniel Richman, his little BFF, weird dude from Colombia. I don't know what's going on there. But he was then leaking to the media all of this stuff about Hillary and Trump and about Russia collusion and all these things. So spare us, John. You guys were doing the leaking for years. Now, one example is grand jury secrecy, blah, blah, blah. Now, given the corrosive effect of judge shopping, oh, that's rich. That's rich. The Democratic Party, which is, of course, what John Brennan ascribes to, which is really the Communist Party, because he is a former communist, maybe current communist. But he and they shop for judges regularly. It's part of their MO. They could, of course, file a petition for a writ of habeas corpus for all of their illegal alien friends where they are being housed in their district of confinement, which would be in Texas. They don't do that. They go to Maryland. They call a Maryland man and they go over to Judge Zenas, rhymes with, and then she grants them whatever they want, release them out into the public. Same thing is happening with these cases. They go to their favorite judges who will provide cover for them. So they say this is conducted by a federal prosecutor, and we want to alert you about this. We've got standing to challenge prosecutorial misconduct. And this is instructive, by the way. We talk a lot about investigations, and it's like, what can a defense attorney do before the charges even come down? This is one example. This is what defense attorneys do. They negotiate before the charges even drop to try to make them go away or to undermine them before they hit. So they say, we want you to know, Judge, Trump's prosecutors are doing something bad here. So this letter is going to open up and proceed through following lines of discussion. Starting here, we recognize that the courts have traditionally afforded U.S. attorneys and the grand jury process a presumption of regularity. Okay, so we can't just make accusations that they're doing something illegal or uncouth down there in Florida. They're entitled to a presumption of regularity. Now in normal times, we would do that. But this is not a normal time. No, and it really hasn't been, and since the CIA director called John Brennan tried to rig the country. Now, we are now in a time, you can tell how nervous they are, when the Justice Department is no longer independent and Trump is going after his political adversaries. which I'm going to try to get through this, but I mean, every sentence is like a joke. They prosecuted him 4 times. They tried to throw him off the ballot in Colorado. They had civil offenses to try to bankrupt him. They canceled him from the entire internet so that you can never hear from him again. They prosecuted all of his deputies. Anybody, including us, who was even in favor or defending the administration got demonetized or canceled, suspended, videos struck, all the things. It was a full-blown onslaught across the country by their party. So now that they're being investigated for their crimes, they're going to turn around and say, we're under attack. Oh no, please help us. Now that command has been conveyed, and Pam Bondi is waging a war. And Trump is waging a war against us too. He's coming after Letitia James, who had her case dismissed, and James Comey, who had his case dismissed. And they've also got federal judges gobbling up the most damning and incriminating evidence of James Comey. They're saying that Daniel Richman, his BFF, can now go and reclaim that evidence, reclaim those emails, force the DOJ to file it under seal with the court. It's rigged. Many other prosecutors have been fired. Good, they should. Now, Brennan's lawyers say, not surprisingly, the unrelenting pressure is going to harm us. And Comey just got his dismissed, and there were questions with his indictment as well, because Lindsay Halligan, we covered that extensively. Now, in the prosecution of a woman for also allegedly assaulting an ICE officer, they failed to secure a felony indictment. Yeah, and this is nullification, and this is a big problem. I mean, the federal laws being nullified by federal judges, federal laws being nullified by sanctuary states, by governors, by mayors, having opposite insurrections happening against ICE facilities, having people shot and killed, new assassinations, all these things. These are the same disintegrations of a shared national identity, a shared sense of justice that we saw happen during the Civil War with the Fugitive Slave Act and all of these things. We started to see things break apart. People would not indict somebody for, holding a fugitive slave up in the North, and we'd have just a total breakdown. 2 systems of justice leads in after a cold conflict into a hot conflict. Hopefully we never get there, but this is what's happening. Okay. The Democratic jurors are protecting the Democrat constituents, which has been on repeat in America for a long time. So they say that's happening all over the place. Now, finally, as a telling measure of overreach, now grand juries are turning down indictments. They won't even convict the subway thrower. You throw anything at a police officer, you're going to jail, unless it's a nice officer and you're a Democrat in a Democrat city, and you can kind of do whatever you want. So this includes other indictments. Tish had her indictment dismissed. Both grand juries returned no bills, and they're not indicting their friends. So they say, look what's happening. This is a result of prosecutorial overreach. Trump and others have an unprecedented insertion of their political interest. They're targeting James, they're targeting Tish, and now they're targeting John. So we submit, Judge, that they are judge shopping. Now they're trying to be down here in Florida. Judge Eileen Cannon is the sole sitting judge right there now, and she is supervising this grand jury investigation. And we don't want you to do that. So we think she's manipulating. This is a clear case of judge shopping. That's rich. And it threatens the appearance of impartiality. So we're asking you, Judge, don't let Cannon touch this case. So let's talk about where this all started, by the way, they say. Here's the background. Look how innocent our client is. Now, to depict the contours of what's going on, let us tell you how innocent John Brennan is. And all of this is going to be filled with lies. Let's smash them to bits. The origins of the investigation lie in the presidential election of 2016. We remember when the intelligence community started to see indications of the Russia government being involved in the election. Now, that realization led to an IC inquiry by whom? Obama? Let's see which one they're talking about. That led to the drafting and the publication of an interagency ICA that laid out all of the intelligence revealing the Russia election interference efforts. Such a joke. That ICA, published on January 6, 2017, it concluded that the government of Russia had undertaken to interfere in the election and that, quote, it aspired to help President-elect Trump by discrediting Secretary Clinton and contrasting her unfavorably to President Trump. Okay, all of that is a lie. They based that on the Michael Steele dossier, that John Brennan and the Michael Steele dossier, or Christopher Steele dossier, was Hillary Clinton campaign propaganda. She paid for that to be generated. Hillary hired Mark Elias, the Democracy Docket goober, was working at the time with Perkins Coie. They hired Fusion GPS. They subsumed the Christopher Steele dossier, put that into their campaign. Hillary Clinton's staffer at the time, called Jake Sullivan, who went to Oxford, he made a post about that on the internet. Then Michael Sussman went and tried to sell that to the FBI. Then it turned into the 2017 ICA. All of it percolated, emanated up from Hillary Clinton. It was campaign propaganda. Then they just shoved it in a classified annex so nobody could see it. There were a bunch of back and forths between the different intelligence agencies, FBI, CIA, NSA, ODNI. All of these people couldn't really come to an agreement. Brennan was forcing this through. He was telling people, well, it kind of rings true, doesn't it? These analysts come in and they're all compartmentalized. So all these analysts couldn't see anything. They could see like 1/5 of the full report. And they said, no, trust me. The other part validates what you're doing. And you trust me. He's validating what you're doing. On and on we go. They create a fake report and then they use it to try to rig the outcome of the election. Now, the election had already occurred. Trump's about to be sworn in on the 20th, but this was all being raced through on January 6th to try to stall out the administration. Now, that conclusion has been supported by every serious review that followed. Wrong, not true at all. Multiple serious reviews say you guys are all liars, including from the new reports that we've got that just got released from Tulsi Gabbard, you liars. So each of those reviews, to include the one by Robert Mueller, who was basically an invalid. He was about as mentally competent as Joe Biden. We saw that. He was just a figurehead. He had guys like Andrew Weissman, Mr. Lispy Lisper, over on MSN Now, who was out there leading the charge, going after Trump's political campaign, going after people who were in power and trying to rip apart their opponents. So the bipartisan Senate committee by Rubio, again, all of it was ultra classified. They couldn't do a proper analysis because they didn't even know all the details about Christopher Steele and how convoluted and rigged the whole thing was. They got and did their assessments, the Senate Intelligence Committee, based on what the CIA gave them, based on what the FBI gave them. And what they gave them was fraudulent. So they have largely validated their analysis. Whatever, not anymore. Nope, Tulsi Gabbard released the real documents. So despite the repeated validation, which is fake, Trump has railed for years that it was a hoax, because it was. Obama ordered them to do it after they lost. There was no independent intelligence that confirmed or corroborated what you said. And if you did not include the Steele dossier, you would have had no report whatsoever. So over the following years, Trump was the subject of a series of federal investigations. Yeah, that were all instigated by John Brennan, your client. So those investigations included coordination with Russian agents, which was fake, as we articulated in 2016. Then January 6th, another fake operation conducted by Nancy Pelosi and the DC police and Homeland Security investigations and all of the FBI goons that were there, and then launched an attack on them by Jack Smith, an illegally appointed prosecutor. The investigation also to subvert 2020, which he didn't. How about you go ask the Fulton County election workers why they can't even sign their tabs? Talk about subverting an election, and then having Brad Raffensperger, in my opinion, a criminal, coming out and saying the most secure election in the country when you can't even follow your local rules. So this was all, of course, a political attack. And the classified document raid at Mar-a-Lago. He was the president. The Constitution says he has the right to the opinions of his advisors and his executives in writing. Those are his documents. He's allowed to have them. He can declassify them just by virtue of the fact of taking them. He took them all while he was still the president, while he had the power to do that. So that was another rigged prosecution as well. And we're finding out that that search warrant was also rigged. They didn't even have proper probable cause there. And the FBI was raising concerns about that before the DOJ said, shut up, FBI. You guys are so annoying. And they just went to Bruce Reinhart and they got the entire search warrant validated based off of bad, corrupt prosecutors perverting the FBI's evidence, where they said there was no probable cause. And actually, debated whether this was the appropriate action to go raid his house with lawful force authorized. So when he was reelected in 2024, yeah, eat it, John, Trump announced that he expected his administration to go after the bad guys who broke the law. On numerous occasions, he stated that these people are a disgrace. He's right, 100%. They cheated, they lied, they did so many bad things, quote, evil things that were so bad for our country that they should all be arrested. It's true. They should. So Trump has focused his ire on our client, John Brennan, whom he condemns for promoting the hoax of Russia collusion, Russia election interference, and he was responsible for that. He branded John Brennan crooked as hell and suggested that he will have to pay a price for that. I hope he does. Trump has stated that he will not bother him at all to see Director Brennan handcuffed and arrested on live TV. Stop. I can only take so much. I can't. That would be amazing. Nobody's been arrested or put in handcuffs thus far. Nobody. Not Comey. Not Brennan, not Clapper, not Letish. They all just kind of get a summons to appear. He once even posted an image showing Brennan, former director, and Clapper, and the others behind bars. That's where they belong. He said, now that Russia collusion is a proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? Great question, great post, great meme, whoever came up with that. Brennan's lawyers continue, they say, in recent months, Trump's subordinates have started acting on his direction. In fact, on July 8th, CIA Director John Ratcliffe sent the Justice Department a criminal referral. Let's go, John Ratcliffe. For the investigation and possible prosecution of John Brennan for unspecified crimes in relation to the ICA. And that's footnote 24 right here, July 8th. FBI launches criminal investigations into Brennan and Comey, part of the grand conspiracy investigation. Love it. Thank you, Ratcliffe. Then on July 18th, DNI Tulsi followed up with her own criminal referral. That's two, Pam. Saying that Obama and his intelligence officials, including Brennan, had engaged in a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people. So true. So in response to Gabbard's referral, now two of them, the Justice Department announced back in July that they were forming a strike force to investigate the allegations of this supposed conspiracy. And it's a cool name, and we hope they're delivering. Now, what followed, they say, we can't believe this. What then followed after we got caught with all of our crimes is for several months when the DOJ, they went forum shopping, which is the richest thing you've ever heard in your life, forum shopping. That's what they do every day. They go to their foreign-born judges and they're like, well, illegal aliens, am I right? And the judges are like, you're right. Here, we're going to release them and they can ransack your country indefinitely. So the leadership searched for a federal district court that would be favorable. Well, you have to consider where to bring your case. Jack Smith did the same thing. You guys did the same thing with your collusion hoax. There seemed to be two objectives animating this, right? Brennan's lawyers. The first, they wanted to pursue this case in DC at all costs. That makes sense because it's a rigged jurisdiction. Despite the fact that DC is a natural venue for this. I mean, if the crimes occurred, they probably did occur in DC. Like, please charge us here. The jury pools there, often overseen by judges, have been openly critical of prosecutorial overreach. Yeah, right. What are you talking about? Not for the J6 cases, they weren't. What was the conviction rate in DC for the J6 cases? Like 100%? They'll put MAGA in prison for nothing. You jaywalk, you're getting the death penalty there in DC if you're MAGA. But of course, if you're a subway tosser, you're out there, some Democrat throwing Subway sandwiches or literally assaulting police officers. You can't throw stuff at cops. You can't even lightly breeze by a cop, okay, in the middle of a conflict. Otherwise, that's assault on an officer, brother. That's a class 5 felony. So it's not good. But in this case, this guy can throw sandwiches. People can tow ICE cars because the sanctuary cities and the suicidal left is okay as long as the criminals are acting on their behalf. They're okay with it. So that's a joke. Don't try to recreate and reframe the biased partisan DC juries as though they're like they're in favor of liberty against government overreach. That is completely ridiculous. They are big government jurors. So they have proven that they're not going to indict people when there's flimsy cases. Yeah. So it therefore is not surprising the DOJ went to other districts. Yeah. And that's just smart. And if the crimes, by the way, you can't just go pick whatever court you want. Like they can't just say John Brennan is a loser, so we're going to go charge him in Texas, for example. We're going to go to the reddest district in Texas and we're going to indict him there. Good luck, John. Unless there's a nexus to that district in his criminality. Did he go there? Did he commit a crime there? Did he shoot somebody in Texas? Well, if there's a nexus there, then perfect, you can go there. So same thing is happening in Florida. They're saying a bunch of criminality was happening down there. Why would we prosecute in DC when we can just go to Florida? Now, the second objective was to find, and by the way, it's like, okay, so you're mad about that doesn't give you the right to choose your judge. Trump didn't want his cases brought in DC or New York. He didn't get to go pick a different judge. Can you guys not have Ariola Engeron handle this case, or the conflicted Juan the Con Mercan with his illegal alien or Democrat-loving daughter? How come they couldn't get different judges? Well, because that's not how it works. So the second objective is to find a prosecutor who would be willing to engage what they say is a politically motivated and fact-free criminal investigation. Spare us. That was the more challenging objective. And so we watched this happen. His lawyers are saying, we're like watching this. In the late summer timeframe, witnesses and lawyers were contacted and they were interviewed about the 2017 intelligence fake report by FBI agents who said that they were working out of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. They come, they have talks with these guys' lawyers. They're like, crap, FBI's here. How does it feel, John? Within a short time, then the Eastern District of Pennsylvania dropped out. They reportedly struggled to put together a case for Brennan, according to some news entity, Glenn Thrush, and the others at the New York Times. So all of the media, by the way, run cover for these guys. That it's one big, disgusting, incestuous family. The intelligence communities, agencies leak to the media, and the media provides cover for them in return for getting access to these news stories. And of course, they're politically aligned. Like the New York Times journalists, they're all leftists. Same thing with Brennan, Clapper, and Comey. So as long as they're going to achieve the same ends, which is in this case protecting John Brennan, they'll report accordingly, even if it's not true. They want to seed the narrative. Oh, look, there's no evidence here. This is why they, again, leaked this story to the New York Times. That's how we got the letter, came from the New York Times. Nobody in the DOJ leaked anything. They're whining about leaking, and they just leaked all of this guts for us to see because they want to persuade the country. So the DOJ ultimately found a home for this, baby. Southern District of Florida, let's go. Where the recently confirmed U.S. attorney called Jason Quinones, shout out, was reportedly quite willing to take on the assignment. Can we just shout out Jason Redding Quinones in the house? Thank you for taking the case. In short order, the U.S. attorney, he established a special group to run the investigation. Man, that sounds so fun. He reworked the office hierarchy to ensure politically friendly leadership and circumvent career supervisors. That's good because career people usually suck. And inserted, especially at the DOJ, particularly at the DOJ, inserted his personally appointed executive assistant into the direct management of the investigation. Perfect, man. You need your A-team on your case with you. Soon thereafter, two newer U.S. attorneys resigned under the duress of being asked to join that investigation. Go get a new job somewhere else. We don't want you here. Go cry harder. You can go work with Perkins Coie. At least one of those attorneys reportedly resigned because that person felt like there was something they could not take part in because it would violate their ethical responsibilities. Oh my gosh. Probably wrote a big, ugly, disgusting resignation letter and shared that with everybody so that they could preen about how morally virtuous they are. The U.S. attorney also opened an investigation in Florida. New grand jury investigation impaneled on November 11th. John Brennan, he got a subpoena, let's go, dated November 7th from that grand jury about the ICA. The subpoena and the letter were signed by the executive assistant U.S. attorney. News reports indicate that at least 30 other current or former officials also got subpoenas or letters. 30 other deep state hacks got subpoenas and letters. So he says, while it's mystifying how prosecutors could possibly believe there's a justifiable basis for this, they have not explained that mystery. Well, you guys should watch this video because we just articulated in basically response to every paragraph exactly why there's plenty of evidence about why John Brennan belongs in jail, in prison for a long time. So we've explained it for you. Just hit rewind. Now, when asked by this lawyer and for others to identify the specific crimes, saying prosecutors will normally tell us, they said, we're not going to tell you what crimes. They said, well, we have a 5-year statute of limitations. Okay, so like the clock's running out for you. And how are you going to establish venue? Okay, this is their other scam. So it's a 5-year SOL, statute of limitations. So if they don't bring the charges within those 5 years, they cannot bring those charges, which is why we were so outraged by James Comey's dismissal, because his statute of limitations has already passed. It's already gone. Now, there's a savings clause and we're appealing the dismissal, but it's still what these guys do. As long as they can just cover it up for 5 years, then they're gone. They're home free. So we should extend that statute of limitations to about 20 years. Congress could be doing that right now. They're not doing it. Why not? Well, because they're too busy being Congress. So they say this, by the way, they say this intelligence report was issued 9 years ago, back in 2017. So it's too old. And it was produced in DC. And so how are you going to charge him in Florida? You can't. So tell us how. So it says they're not answering these questions to us. So what is now known is that they're manufacturing this case. It's happening, but they're not answering even these basic of questions. And you're not entitled to have those questions answered. You'll have all of those questions answered, lawyers, when you get served with a big fat subpoena right to John Brennan's face in the mail. Now, while the foregoing effort to forum shop, they continue, is troubling enough, they're not forum shopping. They are investigating the nexus of crimes. And wherever the nexus of the crimes will be, they'll indict. So here, they say Southern Florida is the wrong location. Judge Cannon's over there. Now, as has widely been reported in the press, there are several stories that indicate that they want this case to go to Judge Cannon. Here's how we think so. First of all, they opened up the grand jury investigation in Florida, but this intelligence report came from DC. So how can they be in Florida if we committed our crimes in DC? The U.S. Attorney's decision also is now seeking an additional grand jury. That's in Fort Pierce. And they're in that division. They don't even need a second grand jury. Doesn't matter. It's not your decision. Maybe they think they need it. You don't know the full extent of the investigation. That's not a good reason. Now, the timing of the decision also coincided with another investigation. So it looks like they've got 2 different grand juries coming after us. And they don't need 2. They just need 1. So this feels political. And Mike Davis has them freaked out. Man, shout out to Mike Davis. The widely reported public statements of Mike Davis. They say Mike is an unofficial legal advisor. Okay, he's not official. To Trump and Pam Bondi, is a known associate of a U.S. attorney, and Davis calls him a very good friend and a buddy. And they're citing other stories from Bloomberg Law and Zoe Tillman. All right. So embracing Gabbard's conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy. She released the documents. Hello, we read them right here. It's not a conspiracy. They're there. It's in writing. We saw what they were doing. Davis has urged the Justice Department to prosecute the alleged conspirators. Of course. So have we. As Davis explained, for at least in the last 3.5 years, he's publicly called for a big investigation. Then it got impaneled. He says, while it might not be typical to place weight on these statements, they're even admitting, they're like, okay, Mike Davis is a political strategist. He has no government affiliation at all, doesn't work for the government. He's just like some guy who's a lawyer out there sharing his opinions on what he'd like to see happen. There may be cause to do so because he's super close. He's like friends with them. They've had beers together one time. And now he's encouraging us to be prosecuted. So that's how freaked out they are. Okay, Mike Davis, keep it up. Make sure you're following him on X. Can't miss him. Now, the numerous, they say also, Cannon is going to destroy us. We're freaked. The numerous past decisions of Judge Eileen Cannon could cause us to lose and go to prison, so don't let it happen. Now, we don't suggest for the purposes of this letter, we're not saying that she would bias against the government. The record in her prior cases make it so that the prosecutors think that she's going to be biased. So we're not accusing the judge of being biased. Just her past practice is making us to believe that the prosecutors will think she's biased, and then that they will then breach their ethical duties by bringing the case to her. So they write, when Judge Cannon presided over the classified documents case in Mar-a-Lago, she took the unprecedented step of appointing a special master, which was appropriate. That special master was going to come in there and determine whether Jack Smith and those goons seized documents that they shouldn't have seized, and whether there was anything that was privileged or classified or something that was not theirs that should have been the president's. And then they reversed her and they said, you can't do that. She was absolutely right. She was completely vindicated. We're learning about this now, that the entire search warrant was lacking in probable cause. And Bruce Reinhardt was the guy who approved it. We're still investigating that, obviously. But importantly, they said she was wrong. And so since she was wrong before, she's biased and we can't have her. Now then, the case was delayed. She repeatedly extended deadlines, and she indulged in Trump's motions when she shouldn't have. And then they're so mad about this. Then in the summer of 2024, Judge Eileen Cannon Hero took the extraordinary step of dismissing the entire case. Wow. They said, Cannon, that Jack Smith had been appointed in violation of the Constitution. Now that decision contradicted rulings of multiple courts, and her ruling was appealed, but it never went anywhere because Trump won the election and ultimately they dismissed the case. And come on, guys, you just literally saw Lindsay Halligan get disqualified from prosecuting Comey and Letish. So cry harder talking about extraordinary step. Literally a similar thing happened. Jack Smith was even more illegitimate than Lindsay Halligan. She was an acting U.S. attorney, acting under the color of the law there. Jack Smith was appointed as a special counsel, which was empowered by the Reno regulations, which were cobbling together other statutes that clearly didn't apply to his office at all. So you can't have it both ways. Are you happy James Comey's case was dismissed? Of course they are. So now they're saying, but you can't have Trump's case dismissed. So then on January 2025, Cannon issued an order also preventing the release of the report, except that report is coming out, right? They're going to come out, I think, soon, because Cannon just said the restriction on Jack's report is going to end February 24th. So that point is also moot. She's going to release the report, so just relax. So now they are going to continue. Brennan's lawyers, in their freak out letter, say our nation's courts operate on a principle that the court system, not a litigating party, selects the judge. Yeah, so why are you sending this letter? Now, these procedures explain that we do this impartially. And they go through other cases in case law, talking about a transfer of cases in the Gouveia case. We'll fast forward through some of that. But there's case law, they say, that says you can't shop. Now, like the government's charging decision in Gouveia, this case is being investigated by a favored forum and a favored judge. Now, they can show us otherwise. If they want to explain to us what the charges are or why they can bring this in Fort Pierce or why the statute of limitations hasn't already expired, if they can give us some information, then maybe we'll back off and we'll say, oh, okay, so they can bring this down here. But until that happens, it just looks like it's biased to us. So we recognize that it is exceptional. Yeah, look at this. They even know. Brennan's lawyers admit it is exceptional for the target of an investigation like John to even make this request, but we really need it. This is an exceptional case where judicial supervision is needed for a number of reasons. They want a special set of rules for them. John wants special protection. They wouldn't have even indulged this if Trump sent this for like Judge Chutkan. Can you please get it away from a foreign-born judge and give it back to the president, to some American-born judge? No, they don't want to do that. So in this case, he says, I know we really shouldn't do this. We'll see if the judges do it. We're also going to protect career prosecutors. who, again, if you just identify yourself as a career prosecutor, it's probably time to just be fired, because the career prosecutors are the people who got us into this position, who sat there idly by as Trump was attacked in 4 different locations, as he was tried to be removed from the ballot. The DOJ has 2 systems of justice, one for them, one for us. And so third, to protect Cannon from the litigation about recusal, we're going to file for recusal. If we do get this case brought, we're going to ask for recusal. So we'd rather not do that. Just give it to a better judge. Bad reason. And fourth, the grand jury is being leaked. And Mike Davis is talking all sorts of garbage against us. And somebody else on MS Now is also reporting that Brennan is under investigation. And so the leaks are violating the rules. The grand jury is not being appropriately handled, so you should take it away from them. And he also needs to protect his due process rights. And finally, here we go from Ken, to defend and reinforce the rule of law in our criminal justice system at this fragile moment in our nation's history. They are the biggest babies and drama queens like theater kids you've ever heard. For all these reasons, we urge you, Chief Judge, use your supervisory authority to make sure Judge Cannon does not get this case. And we're ready to answer any questions that you have for us. They're freaked. They know they're in big trouble. You can see some of this is just a strategic angle to try to get answers about what the charges are. How are they going to indict him for a case that's so old in 2017? Well, we know the answer to that. Same way they got Comey. Comey lied in, I think, 2017 under testimony to Chuck Grassley. Then years later, back in 2020, so Comey lies in 17. Okay, too old, that expires. But then Ted Cruz asked about it at another follow-up hearing, and he recommitted the lie. He reaffirmed his statement. That was a new statement. That was obstruction and lying to Congress, false statements to Congress. That's why he got indicted. So it'll be the same strategy with Brennan. It's not going to be 2017. That's too old. And Congress should extend these statute of limitations so that these intelligence traitors cannot get away with it by just running out the clock. It's ridiculous. So they should extend it, and he should be prosecuted accordingly. But they don't even need that, I would imagine, because he lied again at follow-up proceedings to Congress under oath. And so they'll go after him for that. And we also have questions about what they were conducting during the investigations of President Trump from Florida while being there. So the grand jury investigation is hot right now. It's so hot that John Brennan sent a 17-page letter to the chief judge admitting this is very unusual. This is pretty exceptional. Ordinarily, we cannot do this. You cannot do this. We can't even really ask for it, but we're doing it because we need you to protect John. That's how freaked out they are, and for good reason. So just a reminder, we played a little bit of this once before, but we'll flag it again because it is appropriate over courtesy of Svetlana Lakova. And when Rob Reiner was murdered by his son, and whatever that was, we also saw this was being recirculated because it shows Rob Reiner hanging out with these two people who really belong in jail. Brennan and Clapper right there. John Clapper and John Brennan, the two Johns, sitting next to each other with Rob Reiner. Here was what they sounded like when they were rigging and propagandizing the entire country.
Either person can sit at either place.
Either place?
Whatever's good for you.
I don't think either one of us has a good side.
You don't
so
have
it
a
doesn't
good
matter.
side. It doesn't
No,
matter.
you don't, John.
All right,
You're
me
all
too.
dark.
We're both of the follically challenged. So thank you for coming.
I think you're all follically challenged there.
Really appreciate it. And the thing that to me is so frustrating is that this cataclysmic thing happened to our country, and people don't seem to understand it, understand the gravity of it. And you guys were talking about how, it's unusual for people who have been. How many you have between you, would you say?
Well, Jim has several hundred, I think.
Probably
So
80
folksy
or
and
90.
fun.
Yeah,
And down to
20
earth.
years. So here you are with all that experience. Have you ever seen anything like this happen in this country? I mean, anything like this kind of attack on our political system?
Well, no, not at least to me, as disturbing as this. I mean, I'm a Vietnam War veteran. I went through all the stresses that in the aftermath of the Vietnam War.
Got it. We got it.
Anything that gave me viscerally in the pit of my stomach a more uncomfortable, uneasy feeling than when I realized what the Russians were doing.
They didn't do anything. You guys made it up. So they just sit around, they talk about it. And I don't know when this interview aired, but maybe there's some statements in here. They're not under oath or anything, but can be useful in their prosecution against them. Here's liar number 2.
I've operated here in the United States for many, many years. So they can have access to experts and others who they try to elicit information from, even those individuals who do not even know that they're interacting or supporting the Russians. So we're looking at the different attack vectors. Information was one of them in terms of what they were pushing out. Collecting information from the internet in terms of the email.
Wow, browsing the internet, posting things on the internet. Wow.
But also we knew from experience that the Russians had many different methods of influencing elections in Europe. Getting politicians to accept money. Trying to get pushed.
Okay, so now he's off on a different tangent that has no relation to what the Russians did here. So he doesn't want to talk about what the Russians did here because they didn't do anything. They bought some ads. So he has to go talk about Europe. These guys are liars, okay? And they were at the highest echelons of power in our country. Now they're freaked out. They have somebody who they worked overtime to prevent from reclaiming power. President Trump has now reclaimed power. And now their criminality is under investigation. In my opinion, these guys belong in prison for very serious crimes. Hopefully the investigation is underway and is coming soon. And we're excited that John Brennan's lawyers gave us some insight into what's happening. We've got subpoenas going out to 30 plus people, multiple grand juries, it sounds like, and some good energy down there from a U.S. attorney called Quinones, who is bringing the ruckus. So we're going to keep our eye on this one, my friends, as John Brennan and the rest of them freak out, melt down, ask for special treatment, special rules, special privileges, because they think that they're better than everybody. And quite frankly, for a long time, they've gotten away with whatever they wanted. And now the clock is running out. We're going to continue to cover it. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we do. All right. Man, those guys make me so mad. It's wild. All right, now, let's turn our attention to another very interesting development that's happening right now. The Charlie Kirk assassin, Tyler James Robinson, is now moving to disqualify the entire Utah County District's Attorney's Office, saying no prosecutors from that prosecutor's office can touch this case because there is a major conflict of interest that would make it look like there's an appearance of impropriety that would bias the case and cannot result in a conviction. So they submitted a big one, 48 pages. And in the attachments to this motion, it's 14 pages in total of a motion, but there's a bunch of interesting attachments down here, including statements from the Utah Department of Public Safety from people who were there on scene when Charlie Kirk was murdered. And so we're going to take a look at this filing. The court docket has been a bit busy since the last time we checked. You can see some most recent filings and a battle over what's open and what's closed. And so again, they're classifying some of these things as private pending the closure hearing. We've got orders for transcripts. We've got permission to file overlength motions and a bunch of activity, but you can see the thing that we're focused on most today is this one, motion to disqualify, filed by Tyler Robinson and his defense, which has now hit the docket. And here's what they're saying. They write, all right, court, we now ask that the entire Utah County Attorney's Office be disqualified. There's a conflict of interest, and we want to have oral arguments and debate about this in January at the next hearing. Here's what's going on. They say the Charlie Kirk assassin, Tyler Robinson, he's now here seeking an order of this court, finding that something redacted, representing the state of Utah in this death penalty case has a concurrent conflict of interest based upon personal connections to a witness or victim at the events. So some prosecutor who's on the case has a victim or a witness who was there. And courtesy of our mind map, this was the state's team that we saw at an early hearing. So it might be one of these people: Jeff Gray, the county attorney, Chad Garunder, Deputy County Attorney Chris Ballard, Ryan McBride, David Sturgill, or maybe Lauren Hunt. Might be somebody who is redacted in that sentence. So further, we also want a finding that from this court that, one, upon learning of this conflict, the Utah prosecutors did not employ any screening protocol. So they say, okay, this person like had a son or a daughter or somebody who was there or witnessed this. And once it was discovered, they didn't do anything about it. Any information pertaining to the personal involvement of Mr. Blank was shared amongst the prosecutorial team. So maybe there was a person there who saw it and then told their father about it, Mr., including the county attorney. So based upon these findings and in the interest of protecting Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin, we think that the entire prosecutor's office should be disqualified. All right. Let's see what happened. On September 10th, Charlie Kirk was murdered. He was there in Utah. He was participating at a presentation. At 12:23, Charlie was shot and killed. It has been estimated that approximately 3,000 students and other observers were there. And of course, the scene was chaotic for many in attendance and life-changing for many. Didn't even have to be in attendance, and it was a life-changing thing. Now, one witness described hearing the shot, seeing Mr. Kirk, and observed that the crowd all collectively dropped to the ground. We saw it on video. After a few moments, the crowd collectively got up in unison and started to panic and run. As he and his friends reached their vehicle to leave, they all were hysterical, said somebody. Another witness, who was 40 to 50 feet away from the booth, described seeing the shooting and her cousin getting in front of her. The witness got down on the ground, trying to make herself as small as possible. She thought more shots were coming and it was going to be a mass shooting. She and her cousin sprinted to the nearest building. She grabbed the nearest trash can and threw up. She said it was traumatic. She can't stop replaying it in her mind. Another witness offered, "The atmosphere was pure panic. I was scared for my life," obviously. Now, another witness said, "Right away, everyone was on the ground trying to protect themselves from the possibility of more shots. I remember thinking I could not get low enough and I was instantly scared. I struggled to text my mom that I was safe. My hands were shaking." Another witness said, "We were in shock in the crowd because there was so much blood. I was pulled to the ground and started praying. I thought I was about to die. I was on the ground wondering when the bullet was going to hit my back. I was so terrified that they wouldn't find the shooter and he'd start aiming at us." Now, even those, this is Tyler Robinson's defense, even those who were present on campus but did not see the shooting themselves were impacted and significantly traumatized. Students were locked down in classrooms, experienced panic attacks, and experienced the traumatic aftermath comparable to those of direct observers. And there's some TikTok screenshots down in the exhibits that we'll look at. On September 16th, Robinson was charged 7 counts aggravated murder. Now, the aggravated circumstance for his counts was that he knowingly did it, created a great risk of death to another individual other than Charlie Kirk. That's what they say was aggravating. But who is the other individual supporting the aggravation? Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray gave an hour-long press conference explaining that they're going to seek the death penalty against them, and redacted so-and-so and so-and-so, maybe that's an and, 2 people, 1 person, and other members of the prosecution team were there. During that conference, Mr. Gray said, "I also want to express my concern for everyone who was there and impacted." Now, bummer. Unfortunately, one of the students in attendance at the Charlie Kirk event on September 10th when he was murdered was the blankety blank of Mr. Blank. Was the son, daughter-in-law, stepson, stepdaughter? Like, why is that so long? Was the daughter, was the friend, was that so long? At the time of the shooting, Mr. Blank was the Utah County Attorney, was with them at the presentation. Mr. So-and-so began receiving text messages from his daughter and shared those with Mr. Gray in real time. Now, Mr. So-and-so also called another attorney at the prosecutor's office almost immediately told him about the shooting and shared his probably daughter's text with him. Mr. Prosecutor has described the text message exchange as follows, saying Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 and at 12:25, blank texted my family text group. Someone got shot, and almost immediately afterward, blank texted the same group, I'm okay, everyone is going inside. Then another text came in, Charlie got shot at 12:30, probably daughter, texted the same group, people say he was shot in the neck and his head like tilted or something. Then I texted my probably daughter, did you hear a gunshot or what sounded like a gunshot? I for sure heard it, she said. Everyone started screaming and running. A few people said they saw the shot hit his neck, not sure. So that's prosecutors, probably kid, responding to a prosecutor with evidence, like first-hand eyewitness evidence back to dad. So Mr. So-and-so believes that he discussed his daughter's presence at the event with others at the time. He also discussed the exchange and potential conflict issue with the entire prosecution team before they told us about it. Mr. Prosecutor holds a supervisory role at this office as the blank under Mr. Gray. So he's probably a deputy. Where was our mind map? Probably one of these two. Deputy County Attorney Chad or Deputy County Attorney probably Chris. Probably one of their daughters. All right, so at the request of Mr. Prosecutor, he and another investigator went to the campus to determine the exact distance. His blank was from Kirk, his daughter. His daughter was approximately 85 feet north of where Charlie was seated when he was shot. His daughter's backpack was left in the amphitheater as she fled the scene. Mr. Prosecutor disclosed this information by email to the defense on October 1st. They said, defense attorney Mr. Blank and another prosecution team member, Christopher Ballard. All right, so there we go. So now we know it's very likely Grunander, probably Chad Grunander's daughter, based on process of elimination. They spoke about this issue and concerning communications. Now, Mr. Prosecutor has also stated to the defense that his daughter will not be a witness and that he does not believe that this circumstance is a conflict. Now, Mr. So-and-so, somebody else with a much longer name, provided the same information to the State Bureau of Investigations. So another prosecutor went and told them, or somebody else, I don't know who that is, maybe not a prosecutor. So sounds like prosecutor had a daughter there. They're saying you actually used your daughter's evidence in the prosecution against our client. Therefore, you're conflicted off. You told all of the other prosecutors about what you discovered. Therefore, the entire prosecutor's office is conflicted off. They say Mr. Prosecutor requires his disqualification. His familial relationship with a witness presents a concurrent conflict of interest and disqualifies him from being on this case. Robinson's due process rights require he be removed. Here's why. Under Utah law, attorneys who serve as public prosecutors shall act on behalf of the state, not acting on behalf of their kids. Like all Utah lawyers, those serving as public prosecutors or employees shall not represent somebody if there's a conflict of interest. And more case law being cited. Now, public officers prosecuting defendants while laboring under a personal conflict endangers the due process rights of the defendants, which is rich, right? So think about like Judge Juan the Con Mercan prosecuting President Trump in New York. His daughter was literally working for Democrats, raising money for Adam Schiff, literally creating ads on behalf of Adam Schiff, saying, my dad just arraigned President Trump in his courtroom. That judge was not conflicted off. Remember, he said, no, it's okay. So what if my daughter is a Democrat operative who raises money off my political prosecution of Republicans? So what? He stayed on the case, didn't matter at all. Engeron also never left the case. We had also, remember Juan the Con literally donated to Joe Biden, literally, and then didn't get off the case. It was ridiculous. Now, as stated by the U.S. Supreme Court, If you inject a personal interest or other thing into it, it raises constitutional questions. And so that's what's happening here. In this case, Robinson's defense says the personal relationship between blank Mr. Prosecutor and let's look at the names again. Grunander. Do you think Grunander can fit in that? Grunander right there. And his daughter, a potential witness and victim, raises serious concerns about past and future prosecutorial decision makings in this case. Mr. Prosecutor cannot serve two masters and should not be permitted to do so. So it's like fighting for justice for his daughter, or is he fighting for justice on his county, right? Is he representing Utah? So Mr. Prosecutor's integrity is not in question, and his opinion that there is no conflict is not dispositive. He can't decide that. Rather, his daughter's experience raises an objective question as to whether or not the circumstances present a significant risk, that his family interests may limit his ability to represent Utah. He might have an axe to grind. Now, in assessing this irreconcilable conflict, the court should consider what has already happened. The production of discovery in this case has only recently begun. There is no way to say with absolute certainty that Mr. Blank's daughter will not be a witness in this case. So the defense is not in a position to make this assessment, and we shouldn't be required to do so. Now, similarly, expecting him to separate his role as a blank father, dad, with a wholly natural instinct to protect and shield his daughter, his child, from past and future harm from his role in the prosecution of an individual that may have caused harm to many, including his daughter, is not practical and defies common sense. As described by witnesses on campus below, the aftermath was harrowing, even for those who did not see it. Mr. Blank and his daughter are not immune from this trauma. There may have been fear, anxiety, and anger and other emotions, and so it's unfair for him to be prosecuted by somebody whose daughter is traumatized. Now, there is no way to predict at this time, writes the defense, what decisions may be required and how his impact with his daughter might impact the case. These influences may be subtle. For example, Mr. Prosecutor may be less inclined to believe a witness whose observations are not consistent with his daughter's. Or he's like, some witness says, well, actually, I saw the shooter was over here. And daughter says, no, I think it's over here. He's going to weigh in favor of his daughter, so they say. Or he may make specific strategic decisions to avoid his daughter having to testify, even if it is in the best interest of Utah. He is empowered by the legislature to make commitments, and he can't wield these powers in bias of his daughter. So the risk that his personal involvement may limit his ability is important since they're seeking the death penalty less than 1 week after his communications with his daughter, while she was at turning point events, were provided to the county attorney and the entire team, including when this guy filed a notice of the death penalty. Such notice is not required to be filed until 60 days after the arraignment, so he was rushing. It seems like the guy who said we want the death penalty had the daughter who was there. Oh, that's why they want the death penalty, because of his emotional reactions. His daughter's so upset. He's like, don't worry, honey. We're going to execute this guy. So the risk is substantial. Mr. Prosecutor has a conflict of interest and he must be disqualified. But it's not just him. The entire prosecutor's office should be disqualified. And so Utah County is just one county in Utah. So the idea would be they have to send it to a different county. And let's see what the next county over would look like. So let's see. Here is Utah County and cities. Utah counties and cities right over here. And so you can see a bunch of other counties. Let's see where Utah is right there. So yeah, maybe they would just send it over to like Salt Lake County, Toole County, Wasatch County, Juab. Interesting county names over there in Utah. But okay, so they would just bounce it from one county and probably go right next door, a bunch of options. Who knows which one would pick it up, but they say the whole county needs to go. When disqualification is appropriate, you normally go after one prosecutor, but in this case, we want the whole office. Here, he told everybody about what his daughter told him. In fact, in another case called McClellan, they said this. The entire county, in that case, was disqualified. Also in another case called State versus Balfour. Another conflict, there was an appearance of impropriety. That case had to go too. Now, there is no Utah case that is factually analogous to the circumstances here. The prosecutor being the father of a witness to a homicide at a crowded event. Everyone experienced the traumatic experience. But the same core principles in the prior cases should also apply here, where the prosecutor has a personal conflict of interest. Prejudice to the defense, in this case Robinson, should be presumed unless the state can rebut it. Now, can the entire county rebut this? There's already been significant communication between the prosecutor and the entire team, including the main county attorney, the head guy for the whole county, like the big fanny out there in Utah, and potentially others in that office who are not on the team, about his experience and his daughter's experience. It also appears that no effort has been made by Utah to mitigate the prejudice from his conflict. He's still on the team. So therefore, the entire county, everybody on this case should be booted off the case. Every single prosecutor, hand the case over to somebody else, probably a much smaller county, maybe not as many resources, so strategically would be a nice win for them. Now, cases from other jurisdictions are instructive. In another California case, they came up with a ruling as well. The court said over there the thing, and it's similar here. The supervisory nature of this guy's position as probably the deputy county attorney contributes to the need to disqualify the entire office. In another case in Tennessee, they also booted an entire county off, citing a bunch of case law from Tennessee. So what we need here is a fair trial. The perception of a fair trial is critical in any case, and nowhere more than here. Robinson's life is in the balance. The rigors of the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, the Utah Constitution, the demanding exacting scrutiny is tasked with enforcing the law. So we demand now the entire county be booted. Based on the foregoing, we want you to find that this prosecutor has a conflict of interest, must be disqualified, and the entire Utah County Attorney's Office has made no effort to shield their prosecution, so they all have to go too. Man, signed by all of the defense attorneys here for Tyler James Robinson, the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin. So this will be interesting to see what Utah does with this. I can't imagine that they disqualify the entire county attorney's office based on the fact that his daughter happened to be there. Maybe you disqualify him, and maybe the court asks for the government to brief them on what was communicated by the daughter and how that might impact the case. And I think the judge would have some remedies to protect the integrity of the case, even if, let's say, this guy is disqualified off. Maybe he voluntarily resigns and gets off the case, kind of like Nathan Wade abandoned ship when the judge there told him to get off the case. So interesting filing, and we'll see what the government says in response. I'm sure there's a bunch of case law to say this doesn't rise to the level of requiring disqualification, but there were some additional exhibits that you see they attached, and they're trying here to show how chaotic and traumatic it actually was to beef up the impact of the daughter's statements to the dad prosecutor. You can see here, Brian Schultz is the name of the officer who was collecting witness statements after the scene. And these were taken, this one, 9/25. Okay, so sometime after Kirk was murdered. Here they went, they talked to this person, name all redacted, about 10 in the morning. They say, you want to give us a statement? You were there? Says, yeah, prior to arriving at the campus, I dropped off my son at my in-laws to babysit him. My friends blank and blank picked me up. Then we headed down to the Kirk event. We parked, walked around the place and the location where the event was being held. We got to the event area, made our way down to the front row in the corner of the barricade. So we were right in the front row on the left if you're facing the booth. We arrived around 11:15 at that location. I actually just checked my call records because we got there at 11:04. I was on the phone with my other friend, Blank, who was already there. We were trying to find him. He was in the front row right in the center between them and the shooting. We were just killing time, chatting and playing on our phones. After a while, things were starting to ramp up as the crowd got there. First glimpse of Charlie as he walking down, pictures by the turning point and the team by the water fountain. They were taking the pictures by the fountain, so at my angle, I was able to see him through the tunnel. As he approached with his team, I took a video of him walking up and starting to throw out hats into the crowd. Before Charlie spoke, a spokesperson from Turning Point team talked on the mic for a bit. Then a sponsor for the event came out talking about student loan aid. Then Charlie sat down, acknowledged the crowd, thanked everyone for coming. Charlie said, "Let's get started." First person went up, asked him a question about the LDS Church having more evidence than any other Christian church. They debated for a bit, and the crowd was getting tired of that guy who asked that question, so they moved on. The second person asked another question. His question was along the lines of, should trans people get their gun rights taken away? Because apparently the last couple of shootings in the U.S. were from trans and now furries. Charlie asked a brief clarifying question. The guy answered. Then Charlie got out about 2 or 3 words when the shot went off. My eyes flicked back behind me and to the right slightly. So I was looking over my right shoulder. It sounded like it came from the very back of that area. He's on the left. We were in. It sounded like it came from an elevated position. Definitely sounded like it came from up high, not ground level. After my eyes flicked into that direction, not even a second later, looking back at Charlie, that's when I saw the blood coming out. Man, rest in peace, Charlie. Like a fountain coming out of his neck. I saw him slump back in his chair, his head bobbed down to what would have been his right. But it was his, yeah, maybe. So, and that was the last look at Charlie I got as the crowd collectively dropped to the ground. On the ground, it was silent for a few moments. It seemed like the crowd was waiting for the shooter to magically be put in handcuffs, and it felt like everyone was waiting for the coast to be clear. Then everyone, immediately realizing that probably isn't going to happen, collectively got up in unison and started to panic and run. I knew me and my friends may get separated, but I felt like we all knew to just get to the back of the car ASAP. I filed out with a portion out of the crowd for a few moments through the walkway barricades under the tunnel that was behind the booth. I was able to get into the center of the tunnel where there wasn't a ton of people. In the middle, there was a barricade on the right and left with about a 4-foot gap in the middle with an officer in that gap directing foot traffic. I decided to jump the left side of the barricade, then make a full dead sprint back to the truck. We were all hysterical. We got into the car and drove away. I estimate that the time from the hearing the shot going off to when we got back to the truck was no more than 2 minutes. So we left before the campus went into lockdown. From one person there. Another person there. Statement received 11:24. Same officer driving around getting statements. Myself, blank and blank, arrived at the campus, came in through the north. Food, saw many people were there. I expected to be searched. That's what the ticket said online. Maybe it didn't happen. There were more people there than I thought. We were probably 40 to 50 feet away from the tent on the left side. He answered one question, and then in the middle of the second, he was about to pick up the microphone. We heard a pop sound. It was a lot quieter than I thought a gunshot would sound like. I saw Charlie go limp, lifeless, and kind of slouch back to his left, and I saw a stream of blood come out of the left side of his neck. Everyone kind of froze for 0.1 seconds. Then my cousin in front of me told me to get down. Get down. I got down. Made myself as small as possible. I was waiting for more shots because I thought it was a mass shooting or something like that. I heard the shot come from my right and kind of up towards the mountains on the east. We were probably on the ground for 5 to 10 seconds. And then immediately up and sprinting to the nearest building. We ran to the southeast-ish building. Everyone could tell I was in shock. Everyone you could tell was in shock. We ran in and I grabbed the nearest trash can and I threw up. Maybe shock or the gore, I don't know. I held my cousin tight. We sat in a little ledge in that building for 5 to 7 minutes probably. A police officer came in to tell everyone to hide or shelter in place. We decided to exit the building. We walked out by the ambulances and walked completely south to the McDonald's. It was traumatic. I was in shock, fight or flight mode for a couple hours after. It was something that I couldn't stop replaying in my mind. I saw security on top of the ledge above the tent, but didn't notice them that much after when I saw them initially. Another exhibit. 9 2525. So yeah, man, this is a much more recent statement. Those other statements were months after. 1124. Yeah, Charlie got killed on 9/10. So this one's much more close in time. Don't know who got this statement, but here's what this says. I arrived at the event 10 a.m. right after my classes. I got there early to get front row, of which I was. I was about 5 feet away from the debater to the right and 15 feet from Charlie. About an hour before the crowd grew and it was packed. When Charlie came out, there was much excitement, but also some boos and hissing. But that was expected. The first debater was normal, but the second is when we heard the gunshot. It was probably 1 to 1.5 minutes into the debate about transgender shooters when Charlie got shot by a transgender-loving shooter. Right before the gunshot, the question was asked about how many trans shooters there have been. Charlie responded, too many. A little more dialogue happened, then we heard a sound as if it were a firecracker. I believe it came from behind me to my left, but hard to say because of the echo. I then looked back at Charlie and saw him cease up, and an unexplainable amount of blood gushing from his neck. We all got down to take cover, not knowing if more shots would follow. While ducked, it hit me that Charlie just got shot, and I needed to get out of there. After 10 to 15 seconds, I got back up, ran to the side of the barriers, close to where Charlie was taken out, and fled campus. The atmosphere was of pure panic, and I was scared for my life. After fleeing, I made it back to my apartment at this location by foot. Exhibit D. We've got here consent to interview a juvenile. Mom or dad says, yep, you can talk to them. Here's what a young person had to say. Don't know why the date is redacted, but we got that. So maybe this looks like an adult's handwriting, not a child, but so maybe talking to somebody who's underage and parents are writing this for him. Okay, so we arrived about 2 hours before the scheduled event and arrived at, okay, so I think maybe father's writing or the officer's writing because his handwriting also looks like, so I think officer's writing for the kid. We arrived about 2 hours before the scheduled event and arrived about 10 a.m. in a white Suburban Forester. We originally were sitting on a step, but once more people started arriving, we moved up to the barricade to be as close as possible. We noticed a few security guards and we were just talking. Eventually, we saw a new SUV arrive, so everyone started assuming it was Charlie. He took some pictures with the TPUSA chapter kids. Eventually, he came out and the crowd was super enthusiastic. He and his team were throwing out hats, and eventually he sat down and took his first question. The first question was about LDS versus Christianity, and they went back and forth for about 7 minutes, and then the crowd urged the guy to move on. The second speaker came up and asked this question about whether or not trans people should be allowed to own guns. Charlie thought that they should not, and therefore the guy finished his question. Charlie asked for clarification on whether that number included gang violence or not. When the man at the microphone was still speaking, there was a very loud noise. I genuinely thought it was a balloon, but when I saw a huge amount of blood pouring out of the side of Charlie's neck, I realized what happened. Right away, everyone was on the ground trying to protect themselves from the possibility of more shots. I remember thinking I could not get low enough. I was instantly scared. My thoughts quickly turned to disbelief. I could not comprehend what had happened. I struggled to text my mom that I was safe. My hands were shaking. My friend right next to me pulled me up so that we could leave. There was a stampede of people trying to leave, courtyard. And as we were leaving, we saw two bodyguards dragging a man out on his knees. Me and Ashley sat beneath a tree briefly to call our parents. We very slowly tried to make our way back to our car without getting back through the courtyard. The whole time I was in tears, just praying that Charlie would live. Me too. We eventually made it back to my car, and I gathered myself to be able to drive, and we began the slow process of getting off campus and to a nearby Home Depot to meet our parents. Just horrible. All right, so another scene of where it all went down. Exhibit E. And I think, was there... Looks like maybe some drawings, looks like a body right there. But all right, so Exhibit E. Another statement, 925. This person says, I've been following politics for 5 years. I study political science and English at Weber State University. This is how I heard about the event. I also have followed Charlie for a while, so I was looking forward to him being in Utah. I parked at the parking garage with my neighbor, so-and-so. We walked to the event. I took a picture from the walkway directly across from the tent. I found the event because there was a protester standing in the walkway above the tent where he would be speaking. They were all holding a pride flag. So I walked through the building north of the venue, walked towards the tent where they were handing out pins and constitutions. My friend so-and-so was volunteering with TPUSA, so I talked to him. Then at about 10:30, I walked up the stairs to the barrier where I waited for the event to start. I was talking with people in the crowd, debating, asking questions of the people around this. This is where I met this person, this person, this person, and this person, and this person. Eventually, Charlie arrived. I saw him take some pictures with the students, working with TPUSA. Then he was introduced by two people. One of them, Y Refi. If you want to refinance, that's their sponsor. When he walked out, he threw hats into the crowd for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then Charlie sat down and addressed the crowd. He said something along the lines of, "Give me Utah's best liberals." Then somebody made the claim to him that Mormonism has historical claims for it, more historical claims for it than Protestantism. Charlie spent 5 minutes talking about that, what he loves about Mormons. Then he went back and forth about it. Then the crowd started yelling, "Next question," so he moved on. Then he began answering the next question, which was, how many shooters have been trans in the past 20 years? Charlie said, too many. The student who asked the question said something I didn't hear. Charlie then responded with something like, counting or not counting gang violence? Then I was turning back to look at the stage and I heard a loud pop that I thought was a balloon. I then saw Charlie's body jump from the impact. I was able to see the spot that it hit in Charlie's neck. Originally, I had thought the bullet had hit the other side, but it was on his left side where I was standing. Where it hit, it was a dime-size impact, very dark red, then bright red blood sprayed forward and down about 1.5 feet out in front of him. We were in shock in the crowd because there was so much blood. He slumped back in the chair but stayed propped up. Then I was pulled to the ground and started praying. I thought I was about to die. I was on the ground wondering where the bullet was going to hit my back. I thought I was about to meet God, so I was praying, repenting. I was waiting for the rest of the shots to ring out, either someone shooting the killer down or shots into the crowd. Then I started getting stepped on and trampled. This person then turned around and pulled me off the ground, and we started running through the fountain and up the steps. As I was running out, I saw people standing up on the walkway above the venue, and they didn't realize what happened, so I yelled at them, "Charlie Kirk got shot, and everyone needs to run." We then ran through the hallways, and after 5 minutes, we knelt down to say a prayer. Man, shout out to these kids. It gives me chills. Then I called my parents and my brother to pick me up. I was so terrified that they wouldn't find the shooter and they would start aiming at us. I left my blank there at the UV parking garage until Saturday or Sunday, probably his car. Man, it's just heavy stuff. Prayers up. All right, so here was a TikTok screenshot, and they referenced that in their filing. Unfriendly, friendly reminder for the UVU students. This just isn't a national headline. So they shared a TikTok video that somebody made. One final exhibit is the press conference at noon. Potential charges. They explained how they were going to charge him and his first appearance. And media contact is Christopher Ballard over there. And we were thinking it might be Chad Grunander. So, all right. So that got submitted in by by Tyler Robinson's defense team, the Charlie Kirk assassin. Here's another summary report. This drafted 9:30. Synopsis from some investigator called C. Christensen says on 9/29, I was contacted by blank about some assistance he needed about the Charlie Kirk shooting. Mr. So-and-so informed me his blank was at the scene when Kirk was shot and further explained he intended to disclose that fact to the defense counsel. Mr. Prosecutor advised his daughter was there at the event with a blank bag, and once Charlie Kirk had been shot, she left her bag, so they're the pronouns I think they're redacting out. She left her bag where she was located and fled the scene. Mr. Prosecutor stated that he had photographs of his daughter's bag at the crime scene. Mr. Prosecutor asked if I could assist him in collecting the approximate measurement of his daughter's location and to the location where Kirk was shot. I don't know why he needs to know that. On 9/30, September 30th, Mr. Prosecutor and I traveled to Utah, and I advised Utah Dispatch we would be in the crime scene collecting a measurement. Why does he need to know that? With the assistance of Prosecutor via photographs he had of his daughter's bag, we were able to locate the approximate location of his daughter, where it was in relation to Kirk when he was shot. We ran a tape measure from Charlie's approximate location to where his daughter's bag was. According to the photographs, it was about 85 feet. After collecting the measurement, we left the area with no additional actions taken. So that's interesting. It's like dad is sending cops to go make some measurements because he's curious and it's about his daughter. Like if somebody else goes and makes those measurements, that's fine. But why is dad directing that as the prosecutor? Exhibit 1, and that's the game from the defense team. So just pausing to just pray for a moment and just, throw it up to God up there for what those students went through and for Charlie and his family and everybody. Just horrific, man. And so that is what they're submitting. They're saying that the Utah County Prosecutor's Office is conflicted off because the dad had the daughter there. And then the dad kind of used his power to go and investigate some things. Now, maybe dad needs to be conflicted off, but I can't imagine the entire county is conflicted off unless that evidence, unless that material is somehow so consequential to the prosecution that they need the daughter as a witness. I don't know what the appearance of impropriety is. Okay, a lot of people were there. A lot of people saw the video. A lot of people saw the trauma. So the fact that you had close proximity to it, it's like the prosecutors saw it. The prosecutors we all got to see it. We're all traumatized by watching Charlie get murdered. So is that enough to create an appearance of impropriety such that the entire county is disqualified? I have a hard time believing that. But of course, we're not licensed in Utah. This is groundbreaking stuff as we saw from them. Even the defense is admitting there is no analogous case law for something like this. So we'll see what the courts do. But interesting filing here. We're learning more about what the defense is seeing from their perspective. But now we'll see what the government says in response. Whether the judge grants it or not will remain to be seen. But of course, we'll keep our eye on this one. We also saw that over the weekend, very successful AmFest, and Anna Paulina Luna came out and she shared a clip of her speaking there in Phoenix.
You may not like Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro or Steve Bannon or me, but guess what? If the radical left wins, you, us, and them, we all hang together. We can duke it out on stage, but remember the fight ahead. Because we are all in this fight together. And we have crossed this Rubicon, and it's important to remember who the real enemy is, and that is the radical left that killed my friend Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I think duking it out with each other is perfectly fine. I'm totally comfortable with that. We can be on the same team and you can still really want to, like beat your teammates. Anybody who's been on a sports team, I think knows what I'm talking about. You like the guy because he helps you win the game, but that's about as far as it goes. So in practice or when you're, off the game field, you guys can have your back and forth and get into it. But when it's game time, all that gets set aside and we have to go and really defeat the big enemies who are out there trying to wreck our country and kill our people. So we will, of course, keep our eye on this one. We'll see what the government says in response to this. They'll say that there is no conflict. There is no impropriety. Maybe the prosecutor is allowed to do these things under their interpretation of Utah law. And we'll see what the judge ultimately decides. We've got a bunch of hearings coming up in this case, which we will continue to keep our eye on. You can see a bunch of stuff even scheduled before the end of the year. We have another WebEx hearing where we'll get a ruling 12/29, and then we're coming back next year, January 16th, February 3rd, May 18th, 19th, and 20th, 21st, 20th probably, for a preliminary hearing. And so the case is warming up. Now they're trying to disqualify every prosecutor who's been on it thus far. We'll see what the judge says and does. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now we've got one final segment on the day, my friends, and then we will hear from you. And we'll see what you have to say about all of this. And this is another fun one. The Washington, D.C. Police Department now being sued for their unconstitutional laws. Harmeet Dillon and the Civil Rights Division dropping this one during the Christmas season, and we can celebrate accordingly, saying we're suing D.C. over their gun laws. You see here, they are banning AR-15s, very, very capable firearm, from even coming in their district when the Second Amendment gives us the constitutional right to do so. So the DOJ is saying enough of that. We're not going to be tolerating it anymore. Saying today, Harmeet and the DOJ sued the DC Police Department, saying that they are unconstitutionally banning AR-15s and many other firearms that are not allowed to be banned. And this is great news because as goes DC, so goes the rest of the country. And if you can get a nice victory in DC, take that everywhere else around the country, saying, oh, we're bringing our guns here too in your cities too, California. So today's action underscores, says Pam, the ironclad commitment to protecting the Second Amendment. DC's ban on some of the most popular firearms is an unconstitutional infringement on the Second Amendment. Living in the nation's capital should not preclude law-abiding citizens from exercising their constitutional rights. And we're talking about going to DC, and we'd like to bring our arsenal. So in 2003, a policeman called Richard Heller sued and won, and now they're trying to take the Heller decision and extend it to the good stuff. So here is what we've got filed against the DC police, courtesy of Harmeet Dillon in the District of Columbia. They write, all right, cops. The United States of America is now suing you and Pamela Smith. And we're going to hear from Pamela Smith coming up. She's completely lost it. Played a little bit of this clip here. We got it again because it's just a disaster. But she's being sued, and you can see why. Her, along with others, now having to respond to this. Civil Division writing. On February 10th, 2003, this guy called Dick Heller, shout out, an active duty special policeman, sued the local government in DC because the DC code didn't trust him to possess a firearm for self-defense. A cop, an active duty cop. 5 years later, Supreme Court came back down and found in his favor, recognizing that law-abiding citizens have the right to possess arms inside their home for lawful purposes like self-defense. You're allowed to do it. This is America. Now, as the court explained, the Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms that are in common use today. That's ARs. Now, less than a year later, the District of Columbia and their council, their governing body, they amended its broad gun possession registration requirement carve-out in response to Heller, a requirement that someone who is not a registered gun owner may only possess a gun if that person only reasonably believes that it is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily injury. They amended that. So we can't use that anymore. Then over the years since, the council continued its efforts to infringe on the Second Amendment. Then they limited the ability to use certain firearms. And if you refuse to register your firearm, you're a criminal. Now, specifically, this district in DC, they deny law-abiding citizens the ability to register a bunch of firearms. Colt's AR-15 series, one of the most popular in the country, can't use it. Can't register it. Not allowed in DC. Now, indeed, the current semi-automatic firearms prohibition that bans many commonly used pistols, rifles, or shotguns is based on nothing more than cosmetics or the ability to attach accessories and fails to take into account whether it's a commonly used weapon or not. Then what happened is, acting pursuant to the authority granted by them by the DC Code, then you had Pamela Smith, the chief. They enforced these provisions. It includes the power to approve or deny certificates, all of it running afoul of Supreme Court precedent. So this case concerns much more than dormant bad law. There's a very real requirement that DC defendants here, the police, have acted on and are continuing to act on in blatant disregard of our Constitution and the Supreme Court. That's why we are now here. This is a right that has been ours for 234 years. The Supreme Court explicitly reaffirmed it over the last 2 decades, and you cannot take it away from us. Explaining. The United States of America as the plaintiff in this case, we're now suing. The defendant is Washington, D.C., and the police department, including Pamela. They enforce the gun laws, and they arrest people who are in violation of their illegal laws. The right to a firearm is protected under Heller and its progeny. So here's the background. Saying the Supreme Court confirmed for us, law-abiding citizens have a constitutional right to possess a firearm in the home for immediate self-defense, and it is for commonly used firearms. But for whatever reason, the libs in D.C., they criminalize this. If you do not register with them, you're a criminal. Now, certain categories of firearms may never be registered. They say you can never have them, even if it is for home defense. And certain weapons are excluded. The registration prohibition extends to many important weapons like AR-15s, numerous other pistols, shotguns, and more. Other semiotic weapons, also defined as assault weapons, are prohibited. Semiotic pistols that have the capacity to accept a detachable magazine and a threaded barrel, can't use those. A semi-automatic shotgun that has a pistol grip, can't use those. Pistol grip is not even defined. But they say it's ridiculous. If a law-abiding citizen has a Second Amendment firearm that is not registerable in D.C., they face a misdemeanor fine, 1 year in jail, $2,500 fines. That's good to know. Chief Smith and the Metro PD routinely arrest law-abiding citizens for possessing firearms. Upon information and belief, they're going to continue to do that. Now, Pam Bondi and Janine Pirro, they have the authority to prosecute certain crimes, and as a result of their conduct, we're investigating your unlawful enforcement of illegal provisions. Now, as a result of your conduct, people are forfeiting their property. People are being abused for exercising their Second Amendment right. So unless and until this court stops them from doing this, they're going to continue to do that, which is why we are now suing. We're authorized under U.S. Code to identify patterns or practices of law enforcement that infringe on our constitutional rights. They say the Second Amendment protects our rights to protect ourselves in our home. D.C. Code currently prohibits AR-15, semi-automatic rifles, and makes you a criminal if you have those. The AR-15 is a firearm in common use. So are other semi-automatic rifles that they all banned. Now, handguns are the most popular weapon that are chosen by Americans for self-defense, but shotguns are also very valid. They're not barred by federal law. They're also used commonly. So there is no exception in the DC Code for these certain weapons, and they just say you're banned. You can bring in like a little squirt gun. That's it. There is no historically analogous prohibition of the broad ban of firearms anywhere, and there's no historically analogous justification for the prohibition of these firearms. But instead, Chief Smith and the DC police are law enforcement authorities, and they are the ones enforcing these laws. It's a government entity. We fund them. These are not isolated. Unconstitutional and official policy dictates you're a criminal if you don't register your guns. And so accordingly, they have engaged and continue to engage in constitutional violations. Unless you, DC federal court, unless you stop them from this, they're going to continue to undermine our Second Amendment rights all over the district. And so Harmeet Dillon, Civil Rights Division, is saying we have identified a pattern or practice of conduct that is unconstitutional. We want now a declaration. Hopefully they can get this done soon by like February when we move. A declaration that the pattern and practice of prohibiting AR-15s violates the Second Amendment. And all of the other regulations are also unconstitutional. We want a permanent injunction stopping them from arresting or levying fines for people who bring in AR-15s into the district. A permanent injunction that allows registration of firearms that are allowed under the Constitution, not under your rules, signed by senior counsel Andrew Darlington over there with Harmeet's team, getting submitted in the DC Federal District Court. So good stuff there. Hopefully they get an injunction, right? That says, yeah, Second Amendment. We stand by the Second Amendment. You can have firearms here. Or maybe it'll go a different way, but we're happy the DOJ is behind it. I think it gives many of us a lot of cover who want to, protect ourselves in that district. Some nice cover. So we're appreciative of that. But the lady that they were talking about, Pamela Smith, this is the chief of police. We've talked about her before, played a short clip in a prior video. But this is the woman who, according to a new report that we also read here, was rigging the numbers, the arrest numbers, the conviction numbers, saying what we're going to do is turn serious offenses into less serious offenses. So we can't, report on the aggravated assaults. We'll just call it a slip and fall. Well, he beat her face into a refrigerator. Yeah, but she kind of slipped and fell too, like in the middle of that beating. Okay, because we'll just charge it as a minor accident, kind of a thing, which is what they were doing. And she is now going to be resigning. And she had an absolute friggin' meltdown. So this is a full 3-minute clip. We can't listen to the full 3 minutes. We'll lose too many IQ points. So we'll cue this up here and we'll just play a short snippet. This is literally the chief of police in Washington, D.C. right now. This is the person who has been the chief of police in Washington, D.C. right now. And this is her throwing a literal temper tantrum as she is resigning in disgrace because she was caught rigging the numbers and cooking her books. This is our leadership class in our country.
I never, and never will, and never would have encouraged, intimidated, retaliated, or told anyone
they say you did, though,
to change their numbers.
They say you did.
Never would I have done that.
They say you did.
That is not my character.
Yes,
that is not who I am.
Yes,
that is not a part of the person in which God created me to be. I have to walk in the light.
Your colleagues say you did.
And see, the only thing I just want to, and I'm getting there, Mom. Because as old Baptist preachers say we're closing 3 or 4 times. And I'm really closing right now. I see you, Monica. And to my family that's here, there's some folks that came in from Staten Island, New York, who have known me for well over how many years, Pastor Brown? Since I first came to Staten Island when I graduated from college. That's how long these folks have known. They know my character. I preached in their churches. I preached all across the United States of America.
Yeah, go do more of that.
Never mind, because some of y'all think it, but it's okay. So I'm going to the Bible when I say this to my haters. F you.
Wow. Yeah, I think that was in Corinthians 1, chapter 13, something. Is that right? Is that where that was? When Jesus to the disciples in John, he said, go out, disciples, and tell the world, F you. Is that biblical? I don't remember that in the Bible.
No, it's not a drop the mic moment. Watch me in this space. I forgive you. I forgive you. Because the Bible makes it very clearly. When Jesus was hanging on the cross,
he said, F you, everyone.
When he said to us, Father, even in the pit of agony and defeat, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. God bless you and God keep you. It has been my pleasure to serve the District of Columbia for 2.5 years. It does not matter what goes on from here, but as the mayor said,
all right, that's the chief of police in D.C. That's the lady who's been the chief of police in D.C. for quite a while. So now she is resigning in disgrace. She's like a preacher or pastor or something, and that was just a little bit of it, man. She's absolutely nuts. So good riddance to her. Maybe DC can get its head on straight now moving forward. And thankfully, we've got Harmeet Dillon and the Civil Rights Division, who is now responding to this in a much more intelligent way. Here's what she's doing.
The Second Amendment is not a second-class right, and I couldn't agree more with my boss. The Second Amendment was ratified in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, and yet it has received less attention from the Supreme Court than some of our other important civil rights.
That's right.
However, recently, the court has really stepped up and made clear that states cannot interfere with the right of law-abiding citizens to carry commonly used firearms. So far, the DOJ Civil Rights Division has sued Los Angeles for unreasonable multi-year delays in granting concealed carry permits. We've supported a couple of cases in different courts through our amicus briefs with the Solicitor General's office. I personally argued the Barnett case in Illinois in the Seventh Circuit, and we did another case in Hawaii challenging that state's unreasonable restrictions. Some of the things we're seeing, and that is going to be the focus of our work around the country, includes multi-$1,000 costs for citizens to apply for concealed carry permits. Other jurisdictions are having unreasonably long delays. Other jurisdictions are outlawing guns that should be protected by the Second Amendment under the recent Supreme Court precedents. Now, everyone here knows that common sense teaches us that a criminal is less likely to attack a house that is guarded by an armed citizen.
That's right.
Secondly, the right to bear arms equalizes the ability of those of us, women, people with disabilities, and others who might otherwise be more vulnerable to be able to protect ourselves. And this is important. And I don't mean to detract from law enforcement. They have a very important role as well. But the Second Amendment was passed, and as the Federalist Papers and other founding documents make clear, to allow citizens the individual right to bear arms for lawful purposes. We will be protecting that right here in this Department of Justice.
Heck yeah.
The president issued an executive order making this clear just 2 weeks into his tenure, and I've been working on the Second Amendment section ever since I got here to the DOJ. So stay tuned. You're going to see a lot more action from this Department of Justice to protect your Second Amendment rights. Thanks.
Man, we love Harmeet. She's doing a great job over there. All right, so good report from her. We're happy she's on this because what happens in DC sort of via osmosis permeates throughout the rest of the country. And so if they can get away with infringements on the Second Amendment there, they will percolate and spread throughout the rest of the country. We don't want that to happen. So we're glad she's going into the lion's den and going after crazy police chiefs like this. And the chat had a good point. You're saying that the FU is forgive you. That's what that whole thing was. So she said, F you. And then she goes in to talk about forgiveness. Like, I forgive you. That's why I'm saying F you. That didn't land. Okay. We know what FU means. It doesn't mean forgive you. That's not what it means. So she was trying to have it both ways and did a terrible job at it. We're very glad that she's gone. She can go preach somewhere else. Could you imagine being one of her like lieutenants? You go into a meeting, you're like, yeah, I'm just here for the daily brief. She's like, F you, everybody. F you. And you're like, oh my gosh. Should have been a fireman. All right. So anyways, that's what's happening in DC. Looking forward to just rolling in heavy into DC with multiple ARs strapped on every limb. And hopefully that will be happening soon. We'll be here to do that. Hopefully you join us as we do. All right, my friends. What a beautiful stream it has been. Happy Tuesday. Merry Christmas and all the things. We got a great stream that we just went through. If you're just joining us, we spent some time on the John Brennan freakout, which is a ton of fun. His lawyer sent 17 pages of meltdown over to the chief judge in Florida saying, please don't let Judge Cannon touch this case because we're going to go to prison. And they're begging for special treatment, special privileges. They've been recipients of that for decades, their whole careers, and they want more of it. And they're asking Judge Cecilia to help them out. Hopefully she doesn't do that. But of course, we'll keep our eye on it and see what comes next as the grand conspiracy investigation marches forward. We then talked about Charlie Kirk and read through some pretty horrific witness reports about what went down on the day of the shooting, and also saw that Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin, is now moving to disqualify the entire county attorney office, saying that it should probably be reassigned to another prosecutor in another county over in a way that will eliminate an appearance of impropriety. I'm not so sure I really see the extent of that impropriety. If the prosecutor's daughter went there, that's kind of a matter of chance. A real appearance of impropriety is when Fannie Willis is having sex with her special counsel and paying him $700,000, or when you've got Juan the Conmer Khan donating to Joe Biden while he's prosecuting or allowing Trump to be prosecuted in his courtroom. Those are appearances of impropriety. The fact that his daughter happened to be there, I don't think reaches that scale, but It seems like there's something else going on. Like he sent an investigator over there to find out where his daughter was. I don't know what that is about. Or if there's more that was revealed during their conversations that maybe is filed under seal or something that we're not seeing. But we'll see if the county gets disqualified. I have my doubts about it, but the defense is trying hard. And we got to see more inside about what is in the file and who they talked to, when they talked to them. Some of those students got talked to like 2 months after the fact, which I think is a little bit weird. But there were thousands of students there, so maybe that's why. But we talked about Charlie Kirk, went through that, heard from Anna Paulina Luna. Before we turned our attention over to D.C., we got Harmeet Dillon, who is saying that they are going to be fighting for our Second Amendments in D.C. and everywhere. We appreciated her update. Then we heard this woman, Pamela, come out and tell everybody, F you, and then tried to turn it into like a forgive you. Nobody wants your forgiveness. Nobody's like opining for your grace. No one cares. Nobody thinks that you are worthy of receiving forgiveness from. You're resigning because you cooked the books. Everybody says that you did it. So your haters are not haters at all. They're people who are honest and full of integrity. They don't need your forgiveness. They did nothing wrong. So go cry harder. Go back to your churches and you can start lecturing people there. All right. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And thank you for being here. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. If you haven't already done that, we would love to see you back here. We are also going to have a members only after party. So if you're on YouTube or on Locals as a member, stick around. We're going to hang out, debrief, and close out the day. But it's been a beautiful stream. Merry Christmas, my friends. I hope that your holidays are just amazing and beautiful. Let's see who is here and joining us. And man, I saw a big, juicy, delicious, fat dono come in at the start of the show. And thank you for that one. This is the one from Dark Rogue. Oh my goodness. Look at the size of this one, my friends. Dark Rogue, thank you, man. Super generous of you. Very nice of you to do this. We appreciate it. Hi, Rob. I want to commend you on your dedication to bring us this every day. I have to take breaks when I get depressed, knowing all this evidence will probably go nowhere, yet you keep going. Thank you. No, I support your channel always. May you and Alexis have a Merry Christmas. Dark Rogue, man, thank you so much for being here and for that nice dono. I know you're here a lot, all the time. You've been a membo for ages, and we're super grateful and appreciative of you. And I encourage that. I mean, I really encourage, like, politics is very toxic. It's why a lot of people don't engage in it. It's why a lot of people just say, politics is stupid. I'm just going to work on money. I'm just going to work on this or that, or, you know, spend all their time on sports or whatever, hobbies or whatever. No, it's tough to engage in politics because it's our country at stake. It's our lives at stake. It's our, you know, it's like the most realistic game on the planet that actually can destroy your life. So I understand the need to take a break, and I encourage it. You know, unfortunately, I really can't take a break from myself, but you can. And so I encourage it, and it's good. It's good to pause and get some perspective, zoom out a little bit. One of my coaches, he has this phrase. He says, sometimes you're too down and in, you got to get up and out. And for me, that just kind of explains it. Like, you're too like down and in. You're just like, what's going on in here? Another phrase is, you can't read the label when you're inside the jar. Like, you're too in the thick of it. So we need to get out. We need to, as much as politics is important, it is also important to get perspective and to kind of unpack ourselves. So we'll be doing some of that this holiday season. Dark Rogue, of course, you know, taking Christmas off, and tomorrow we won't be here. We'll be doing family celebrations and stuff. So I think it's important we all take a break. Remember what really is important. You know, politics is oftentimes high energy, a lot of red meat, but you can also get sick on the red meat. You can eat too much of the good stuff. So Dark Rogue, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for enabling what we do. We couldn't do it without you, your viewership, your support, your friendship. So very, very appreciative of that. Thank you very much for doing that. Merry Christmas to you. Dark Rogue in the house. Very nice. So, and we can all celebrate the holidays with the most important things on the planet, politics aside. Now, speaking of all of that, look at this guy. Grinch Jim Carrey. I love Christmas. Me too, Jim. Merry Christmas, everybody, from Jim Carrey, the Grinch. Hey, Jack Blue. What's up, Jack Blue? great to have you. Welcome aboard. We'll see you in the after party. Hopefully you'll be joining us in just a few minutes. We got this one from the Rubos, man. Shout out to the Rubos. You know where they are, rubosaltshop.com. Happy holidays from the Rubos. Rubo Salt Shop, baby. Look at that. It's going to be a delicious Christmas with all that extra salt from the bottom of France, the oceans of France. Hey, with God, all things are possible. Amen. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you, the Rubos, at rubosaltshop.com, baby. Hey, Mr. TJ Elton. Hey, Merry Christmas, RG and family. Merry Christmas, Mr. TJ. Will you, brother, be back on the show soon? The wife and I love the show with... Will your brother be back on the show soon? The wife and I love the show with him. Great content, Rob. So you like my brother Joe? Of course. I mean, he is really the highlight of the whole show. Everything we do is really to highlight Joey because he's Joey. He's amazing. So that's a great question. So we're probably next time, January. We're going to have to get out to January. I'm thinking of our schedules. And so it's probably going to be January. We'll have to make a video with my bro Joey in January. But you know, he has his own YouTube channel. So he's got some other videos out there. If you search up I Am Joey G, he has a YouTube channel with him and Timmy. They've done some movie reviews and he's got some other videos up there. So definitely check that out. I Am Joey G. And I got to post some more stuff on that channel for him. Yeah. I've got some other things I've recorded. We just haven't posted yet. I think you've seen him when he was here. I clip him out, but he's got some other stuff that he's done and he's great, man. He's great. He's a little pro behind the camera. Mr. TJ, thank you for that. Shout out to your wife. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for sending my bro some love. Sharpening Man. Hey, what's up, Sharpening Man? Merry Christmas, Watcher fam. Merry Christmas, Watcher fam. Merry Christmas, Sharpening Man, to you. Dark Rogue, we love you, man. Thank you again for that. Extremely generous. Oh my goodness. Breaking news. It's official. Robert Gouveia, Michael says, I've been confirmed to be on Santa's good list. Whew. Thank you, baby Jesus. That was a close call. We didn't know if that was going to happen this year or not. Michael's reporting, just breaking on Fox News, on the good list. Just barely. Just barely. Milo Phone Bill, what's up, says, Washington State is going to raise tax money in 2026. They think they can raise $185 million a year by charging a 10% sales tax when you buy gold and silver. Groceries and gasoline are cheaper past the American flags on I-90 in Coeur d'Alene. On $300 to $500 a week in groceries, the 3% sales tax difference pays for 3 gallons of gas. Yeah. Just keep taxing us into oblivion. Crazy. Washington State, what a dump. Chubby Stubby, what's up? The only thing Brennan's lawyers could have done to make that filing even more ironic would have been to point to Judge Jeb Boasberg when talking about the problem of judge shopping. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Boasberg or Zenas, like, you know, they are the ones that should handle these cases because they're so honest. The whole thing's a joke. Zenas, they could have filed their petition for a writ of habeas corpus in Texas where Kilmore was being housed. They didn't do that. They go find their favorite judges and they exploit them, and they're happy to be exploited. Sev Russ, what's up, Chubby? Good to see you, Chubby. Merry Christmas, brother. Sev Russ, hey, under the weather today. Thanks for your analysis and occasional snarky comments. They make me feel better. Merry Christmas to you and the fam. Merry Christmas, Sev Russ. Sorry about the cold or whatever you got going on. A lot of it going around out there these days. But hopefully you can rest up and kick it in the next day or two. And then you'll be doing handsprings on Christmas morning. Thanks for the analysis. Thank you, Severus. Thanks for being here. And thank you for the email too, Severus. I appreciate that. We are happy to see you. Dark Rogue. Oh my goodness. It's a Christmas miracle. Dark Rogue is also, in addition to a big super, also bringing in 50 new members. Dark Rogue, man, you're so amazing. Hey, Pinecone, welcome. Ohio Kimmy coming in. Pam, Wild Fly Girl. Green Caps Lock is in the house. Swede for Trump. We got American Patriot, Hippie Hank, Sir Jax, welcome. Skate Betty. Linda G's here. Amy Analyst is here. We got Robert Diet. We got Mackie Fam, Dark Rogue saying happy holidays to everybody. Cats in the house. Bratty Brat. What's up, Benny Boy? 1967 Chevelle. We got Christopher Hammonds, Cuda Dude, Bruce Leroy, G Campos, Glitched Elite. What's up, Nicole Hatfield? Ohio Kimmy, Just Rhonda shouting out. Gabrielle, we got Bino Leon. 65 Goober. We got Mega H2G. Hilda Beaver Hassan. We got ran out of channel names is here. Izzy Poor Mama. Mike Cabral. We got Denard Nixon. Pam Latify. In the end, God wins is here. Mission Man. What's up, John Baker? Nunya Business is here. Mr. E. We got Wicked Truth. Clint Does Improv. Francis Valio Divisio. We got Scott Petty Post. Richard Tatership shouting out. Vila, Sputnik Geezer, Danish is here. My Lady Amy, Billy Lilly, and Pollutants, along with KCSH Fla, Egregus, and Purple Drink, all in the house, man. Welcome, Purple Drink. Oh, man, is Sunny D in there? That's purple stuff. Some red stuff. What? Oh, it's Sunny D. What's up, Purple Drink? Good to have you. All right. Hey, Dark Rogue, thank you for bringing in 50 new membos, man. New membos, we cannot wait to see you in the members only after party coming up in just a minute. 200 Watt Studio, what's up, says, that meeting with Reiner, Clapper, and Brennan. Reiner was so gullible because he wanted it to be true, that they used him as a useful idiot, LOL. I think that I haven't looked into this extensively to like speak intelligently about it, but I've always had the sense that Reiner was intelligence. Even when he was posting on X, I think I muted him on X because he would post just like CIA slop constantly. I'm like, this guy is just like, this is a intel account. I'm pretty sure I muted him and I have to go check that out, but I've always had a suspicion about this guy. It's like, how can anybody be so chummy with all of the intelligence agencies if you're not a part of it? Wood Chip Bill. Oh my goodness. These are awesome. You made these? Wood Chip Bill. Some of the Christmas ornaments I've made. Look at that. That is cool, man. So like that's some serious lathe work. Are they hollow on the inside? That's even more impressive. Amazing, man. That's super cool. Shout out to our craftsmen out there. Hey, Runmead, do charges exit before a grand jury produces findings? So the grand jury usually returns an indictment. Sometimes a grand jury can be used to investigate things and, you know, issue subpoenas and demand records and like as a fact-finding endeavor. But yeah, generally, so you can be charged a couple of ways. You can be charged by a direct complaint, like you see an FBI agent write an affidavit and a prosecutor file charges. You can be charged that way, or you can be charged by grand jury. And like Maxwell, Epstein, they were grand jury indictments. We actually read through one of those yesterday. So yeah, then the grand jury indicts, and then they are, you know, part of a grand jury like sequence, but then ultimately the grand juries will be dissolved. They've done their work. Chubby, what's up? Brennan's lawyers. We now welcome any questions to our absurd filing. We're ready. Judge says, well, I have just one. What the actual F is this? GTFOH? Out of here with this garbage. We'll see if that happens. I know. Hopefully that's the reaction we get. Hopefully the chief judge is like, I know, canon's just so difficult, which might also happen. Leonard, what's up? This is an apparent there is an apparent trans issue, but could the real intent have been to murder Charlie because he was such a vital supporter for Trump? I think it's probably both. Yeah, I think it's probably both. I think that Charlie was extremely effective. And we made this point at, the day it happened. It's like, it's hard to think about that, but he was a very effective political machine. I mean, honestly, what he was doing. Look what's happening to the party now. Everybody's sniping at each other. So he was very effective. Yeah. So it's maybe they were also just anti-trans, like they hated his policy positions, but it was also like taking out a top general in an army. It's like you take him out and you have a much better chance of beating that army because their key leader is now gone. So I think it's both. I think, and of course we know about Tyler Robinson. Apparently he was, banging some tranny and into furries and all sorts of weird stuff. So the fact that Charlie's political position is what it was may have been the, instigation, but the consequence was we lost somebody very important. Biology always wins. What's up, Biology? Thank you for this nice one. Says, rocking and misses. I hope you have an Eastern meetup. I'm hoping to meet you both. That way I can talk to Alexis about starting the female store. All the first memories matter in your silver years from Biology always wins. Well, we're talking about that. Yeah, I mean, after Christmas, we're heading back to Washington, D.C. We're going to go look at places out there to think about moving out there. I've been out there. Alexis has never been out there. So, if we get there and she hates it or something, it may not work for us. But I think she'll be into it, and she's excited. So we're going to go out December 26th through the new year, and then we're coming back. But we're going to be out in D.C., so we're going to be scoping things out. And if we do make a more permanent move out there, then yes, we'll be doing some East Coast meetups for sure. Maybe even in D.C. for all we know. So biology always wins. That's what we're working on. And it's kind of a wild thing that we're considering happening. There's no, I don't have a job offer or anything out there. It's just like we're taking the show out there because we want to cover this stuff more intensely and we want to be more impactful in this space, right? So it's like, well, we're going to just go check it out, see if we could do that, see if that makes sense. But yeah, if we're out there, if we end up out there, we'll be on the East Coast much more regularly because we'll be living there. Hey, Milo phone bill. What's going on? Protection for the defendant, not like the victims of the crime, just like Dugan's case. Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah, the alleged criminal, in this case, Brennan, wants special treatment, just like all the illegal aliens. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Yeah, I know. DC's, I know. It's like a big can of worms out there. I know. There's some hesitation out there in the chat. I see that, Maddie. I see it. War Crimes Enjoyer says, breaking news, DNI Director Tulsi is in talks with Trump and Snowden's lawyer for a total and complete pardon. You're kidding me, really? Wow, that's interesting. Tulsi? Well, that's right. I think they were kind of friendly with Snowden. Was that right? Yeah, Snowden blew the lid on our corrupt government. And so they said, we have to prosecute him and take him out because he told everybody what we did. And why? Hey, okay, maybe they have to recuse this prosecutor, but I hope they take the death penalty off the table. This guy is garbage and needs to stay in jail for decades. Yeah, I understand that concept. I'm generally opposed to the death penalty, because our prosecutors are idiots and they kill innocent people. And humanity is not very good at deciding death. So, don't want to kill babies in the womb, don't want to kill innocent people in prison. And we've done that many times. So, and the other, I think, argument for that is I think life in prison in many ways is worse than the death penalty, in some ways and shapes and form. But I also can understand the concept if like your loved one is just murdered in cold blood in front of everybody. Maybe that's what justice is. But all right. So yeah, thank you for that. And why? I'd rather be skiing. Ever notice that when bad people who don't think that they're bad get caught, they always go biblical for cover? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're going to go quote Jesus or something to us? You were a lying fraudster. Shameful and won't fool Jesus. I hope you all have a blessed and Merry Christmas, right? And then she just screeches at everybody. Crazy. Rub some dirt on it. What's going on? Hey, I had a chat with Santa yesterday and you negotiated us on the nice list. Man, thank you. Rub some dirt on it. We needed it. All the help we could get. According to Santa, Alexis and Mommy G are already permanently on the list. I know. That's why I'm so desperate to get on there with them. Merry Christmas to you and the rest of the Watcher family. Rub some dirt on it, man. Look at this great photo. You look great, dude. That's awesome. That's a good Santa, a good Mrs. Santa. So good. That's such a good photo, dude. I love it. I love it. Man, it's just great. Man, I'm inspired. I want to go take a picture with Santa now. Only way it could have been a little bit better if you sat on his lap. Maybe next year. Maybe I'll do that. Remember that scene from The Office? Michael Scott had Kevin sit on his lap and like almost broke all his leg bones. Hilarious. All right, rub some dirt on it. Thanks for getting me on the list, man. I'm really grateful for you. Elf. 10 new membos coming in from Elf, and it's almost after party time, so we'll see you in just a minute, my friends. Born a Hawkeye, welcome. Kim Gair, L55 brought you in here. El Carcho, welcome. Gretchen Davenport in the house. Chance Latham, we got Mr. Siltan, and Words Mean Things, all gifted membos in the house, courtesy of Elf55 in the house. Thank you, Elf, and welcome new membo friends. There's Rub Some Dirt on it, looking good. Rogue Source also coming in. Corinna Jones and Livin' Like Larry. All gifted members courtesy of Elf55. Thank you, Elf. Welcome, new friends. We'll see you in just a minute. Yeah, G-Man, I saw this too. Yeah, most Second Amendment administration in history, my ass. They're still arguing silencers are not covered by the Second Amendment. Now they're adding the NFA is constitutional and other silencers when the tax is $0. They are still awful. Yeah, I agree with you, actually. I don't buy Pam's stance on it. There was another story we didn't cover here, but I think in the Supreme Court, like, didn't they file, maybe it wasn't the Supreme Court. They've taken some anti-Second Amendment stances recently as well. This is a good one, but on other issues, they've gone the other way. Thank you, G-Man. You're right. Just on Soulless Ginger. Hey, back to lurking. I have to go back to the hospital now. Please send prayers for a peaceful passing for my sweet mama. She should be spending Christmas with her beloved husband in heaven. Oh, Just on. I'm so sorry. You are a great daughter. We're going to pray for your mom. We're going to pray for your father in heaven. He'll be grateful to be reunited with his love. We will miss our mothers, but we will all be reunited again. Prayers up for you and your family. We're going to send good energy into that hospital room and send love during this transition. And at one point, we will be reunited again. Prayers up, Just on. You're a good daughter. Prayers up for your mama. Kelly C., what's up? 18 months as a member. That's 2 babies. Merry Christmas, Kelly C. Thank you for being here for 18 months. That's 2 full babies. That's a long time. Kelly C., you rock. We'll see you in the after party. Hey, Terry Yellowhorse. What's up, Terry Yellowhorse? 40 months as a member. I need a calculator for that one. Merry Christmas, Watcher family. God bless you all. Merry Christmas, and God bless you, Terry. Terry Yellowhorse in the house. Thank you for being with us for 40 months. That is a long time. And another one from Terry. Greetings, Watcher family. It feels so good to be in the live stream again. Feels good to have you here. A belated congratulations, Robin Alexis. Merry Christmas to all. Terry, what a nice comment. Thank you for that. Glad you made it back after your brief hiatus. Don't ever leave us again, please. We got this from Renee Sargent. Hey, by the way, my wife's ankle is healing and USAA is cutting us a really big check for a new truck. More than we paid for it brand new last year. That sounds like a win. Renee, Merry Christmas to you and to yours, Renee. And shout out to your wife's ankle. She's going to be doing backflips again in no time. No doubt about it. Have you been carrying her everywhere since that happened? You're going to be free soon too. That's good. Renee, great to see you, my man. Hopefully you're doing well. Merry Christmas to you guys. Hey, Tattoo in MD. Tattoo in MD in the house. Tat, we'll see you in a minute on the after party. Will be great to see you in just a few minutes. Hey, what's going on? Boopsy, great to see you, Boopsy. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas. I commend you for handling stress so well, apparently. If I was moving and it was at the same time as Christmas, I'd be a wreck. We're with you in spirit every day. Yes, there's a lot kind of going on. And I kind of was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I've got a lot of things going on right now. But, you know, it's what you got to do. It's what you got to do. So I feel like exploring DC is one of those things that sounds a little crazy, but might actually be crazy, but might also be incredible. A little high risk, high reward there, but that's how your boy likes to play. So Boopsy, thank you. We'll figure it out. We always do. We just figure it out. Usually last minute. Usually I'm like, forgot that at home. Anyways, Boopsy, we'll figure it out. And I will say this, I spent yesterday afternoon reconfiguring my mobile setup, my mobile kit. So when we're in DC, we'll be live streaming. And I'm excited. I got all this new stuff, like gear. It all fits into one backpack. It's perfect. I'm excited about it. So we're going to keep the show on the road, baby. Boopsy, Merry Christmas to you. Honestly, you guys help me with the stress too. So I get out here and it's like, oh, look how nice and friendly and calm everybody is. That's good. I better chill out too. So it's very symbiotic. Thank you, Boopsy. We love you. Merry Christmas. Hey, on Rumble. Man, thank you, Neuro D. I'm in Fairfax, Virginia. We'll absolutely cook y'all dinner if you want. From Lauren. Man, that's awesome, Lauren. That's amazing. That sounds awesome. We'll probably take you up on that because we like a nice dinner. So Lauren, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, we're heading out there. I don't know that we'll be able to do much like on this trip. This trip's pretty short. It's not that short, but we're going to be we're kind of jammed up. We're looking at places and traveling all over the place. But then the move would be February. And, there's like this Trump window out there too. Like Trump administration is going to be there for the next 3 years. Maybe we can go and be useful in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not, but that's what we're talking about. And so, yeah, East Coast, that would be fun. Lauren, thank you for the nice offer. That sounds amazing. Queen Bee's Art Hive, what's going on? 25 months as a member, coming up on 3 babies. Love y'all. Merry Christmas and prayers up for all. Man, Queen Bee, thank you for that. Yeah, the holidays are a beautiful time. They're also a very tough time for a lot of people. It's tough, it's tough for people, for families who've lost someone. Like in my family, we lost my younger brother, Eric, a while ago, but Christmas is still not the same. Like you grow up your whole life, you've got your brother with you, and then suddenly he's not there anymore. Your mom's not there anymore. Suddenly these people are not there anymore. So it's very hard, but we're in it together. We're all in it together, and it's the journey of life. So we try to love each other up, pray for each other, and support each other through these times. Spuds, Rob and Alexis on their way to DC. Hey, watch it. That's a Tesla joke. Yeah, I have a Tesla. And so that's probably what's going to happen. I know. And I don't know if we're going to take them out there or like take our cars out there. It depends on what kind of place we get. If there's parking, we'll probably take them. If there's not parking, we probably won't take them. But yeah, I got to drive across the country in my Tesla to stop every 2 hours to charge up. What kind of an idiot buys a car like that for a cross-country trip? Pfft, doofus. All right. Thank you, Spuds, for rubbing it in. We appreciate it. All right. So, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for joining us as the holiday inches closer. We're going to pause here. We will be traveling to DC, and then after the holidays, we'll be back on our regular schedule. Not while we're in DC. While we're in DC, we'll be kind of hit or miss, but then we'll be back early January. But in the meantime, we're going to be posting. We're going to set up shop in DC, do some live streams there, and it should be amazing. But until we're back, man, I want to wish you the best Christmas, the best holidays, the best Hanukkah, all the things, whatever it is you're celebrating. Hopefully you are enjoying, remembering the reason for the season, spending time with our families, our friends, the people that we love, paying it forward, pausing, unplugging, getting some perspective, some spiritual connection, all the things. We're working on it. So we today will pause for the holiday, and we can't wait to come back and join you again. We'll have our members only session. So if you're on YouTube or locals, hang tight. We're going to debrief, take some locals comments, see what else you have to say about the day, see if anything broke worthwhile since we started the show. But otherwise, we're going to pause here for a few days, my friends, and then we'll come back. We'll get into it again. But until we are back, I want to wish you the best holiday. Merry Christmas. I hope you're doing something fun. Prayers up for our friends and families who are going through something tough right now. We're going to continue to think about you and support you in spirit. Send some love and energy your direction. No doubt about it. But today, we will pause here. Members, don't go anywhere. We'll continue on for just a bit, but it's been a beautiful stream and an amazing week. And we will be coming back here to get into it again in just a short order. But before we wrap it up today, let's say hello to our friends on X, and then we'll thank our mods, and then we'll members only after party time in just a minute. Do we have any comments on X? Here, this one from Tectonic Salt says, a station chief says, intelligence agencies cannot be reformed unless POTUS can fire every federal employee. That sounds good to me. Yeah, that makes sense. Be a good way to solve a lot of problems. But my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Happy Tuesday. Hopefully your delivery guy brought that final gift to your door. Hopefully he did. And you got it, and you can wrap it up. And then, of course, gift it to that person you love. But today we'll pause here and head over to our after party. We'll come back. We'll get into it again. Before we close it out, we want to thank our amazing mods. Our friends, Carrie B in the house, clipping for us. K-Bean in the house. Great to see you both. Thank you for clipping for us this morning. Of course, we've got Donut Mind Me, Muffin Rando, John in the house. We got Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, Sassy Gemini, modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and beautiful around here. We love you. And my friends, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video on the way out. And thank you for enjoying your beautiful holiday. We'll come back. We'll get into it again. It's after party time. Hopefully you come and join us and see us there. But if not, we'll be back here to get into it again right after Christmas. And in order to do that appropriately, we need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends, and an amazing afternoon. A very Merry Christmas. We'll see you right back here on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers, stay each night together and live